How can we continue the liberty movement? A prime and necessary condition for libertarian victory is education. The persuasion and conversion of large numbers of people to the cause. Education, in turn, has two vital aspects: calling people's attention to the existence of the libertarian system and converting people to that system. Okay, lower my mic. Thank you. Testing, testing. Okay. Libertarians must put forth books, articles, videos, and events, but these elaborations of the theory will get nowhere if nobody knows of their existence, which is why we need to also focus on publicity through social networking, radio, TV, magazines, movies, YouTube, etc. True education cannot proceed without theory and activism. Thus, just as theory needs to be carried to the attention of the public, so does the theory need people to hold the banner, discuss, agitate, and carry the message forward and outward to the public. Once again, both theory and movement become futile without each other. It is not only necessary to educate others, continuous self-education is also equally necessary for advancing the liberty movement. Educating ourselves accomplishes the goal of advancing and refining the ideas and purpose of the movement. We must advance the ideas of limited government, sound money, individualism, and peace. Tonight I have gathered a group of liberty-minded friends to discuss the different ways of keeping the movement going. And I will now introduce T-Mont here, the Minister of Truth, Derek Grayson. And he's actually here, right? We're good on that? Yeah? Okay.
This is about liberty.
This is about freedom. It is about cleaning house from the corrupt politicians pandering to special interests.
Now is the time. We know what needs to be done. It ain't about us. We're doing this for our country. We will stand and be heard. We will be silent no more.
So get up off your ass, get those boots on the ground, and let's do this thing. Freedom!
Okay, we just need you to start broadcasting now. Anyway, I was really nervous reading that speech, so I apologize for being crappy at reading it. Thank you. T-Bot, you coming up? Okay, well, I guess we'll just go to Daniel. So, Daniel Johnson, go ahead and start your broadcast. Well, this whole video will be uploaded to YouTube. Okay, yep, here we go. Okay, so we have Daniel Johnson here, founder of People Against the National Defense Authorization Act. And what are your thoughts on continuing the liberty movement?
Yeah, first of all, let's go with a little bit of an intro here. I'll post it in the chat. If you want to start this video at 6:17, then that'll give a little bit of an intro of who we are and what we're doing.
6:17?
At 6:17, correct.
Okay, it'll take me a second to mess around with it because Tiny Chat's not the best thing in the world.
Gotcha.
Oops. Pause. I have to randomly find 617 in here. 5. Okay, 618, that'll work.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I think you're good to go.
Can you guys hear me? All right, excellent. So today we're going to talk about the future of the Liberty Movement. And you guys are saying you can't hear me in the stream. So I want to see, you guys good? Let me pop something, let's see. Can you guys hear me better now? Anything?
I think, yeah, what?
Okay, there we go. We got it. We're good. Bingo. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the future of the Liberty Movement. And I don't want to take up too much time here because we have some of the most amazing people in the Liberty Movement right here on this broadcast. So thank you for tuning in, and thank you, John, for putting this on and getting us all together on this. The Ron Paul Revolution was always about education. Ron Paul himself told us that it was always about education, about teaching people the principles and values of liberty, about learning what liberty is and returning back to our founding principles and our Constitution. That this movement achieved that very well, and so well, in fact, that you have people who know who Ron Paul is who wouldn't have heard him 15 years ago, and people who are talking about liberty on the internet. Ron Paul's the biggest phenomenon on the internet right now. And the educational movement has worked so well. But now it's time to take that from education and take the people who we've trained and take the people who know liberty and turn that into action. There's a scale that I was taught, and there's political elites in every society, and there's a scale I was taught. And on this scale is what the elites like and what the elites don't like. What the elites like, voting. Voting is right on the edge of that scale because they can control the candidates often, and they can control the process as just as much as well. Well, on the other side is protests and nullification. And as Stuart Rhodes said, if any of you have heard him, great guy from Oath Keepers, as Stuart Rhodes said, when I get up in the morning, I think about what do Barack Obama and Mitt Romney not want me to do? And then I do it. So the future of the Liberty Movement is now taking action. We've now educated, and now we need to take action. How are we going to take this action? We're going to take action against the laws that are unconstitutional and are null and void from the get-go through nullification. Now, you may have heard this term before, you may not have. Thomas Jefferson said, when government goes outside its bounds, nullification is the rightful remedy. Government has gone outside its bounds. I believe everyone on this video chat realizes that. So now it is time to nullify. Counties and states are both sovereign. At least states are, and counties, it's not very contested that they're sovereign. Your county sheriff is the highest officer in your county. Using these two entities, you can stop a law or a bill in your county. For example, Allegan County, Michigan, where we recently nullified the NDAA, and the sheriff will not enforce NDAA in Allegan County, Michigan. Those residents were protected about a week and a half or a couple of weeks ago. Not long, actually, I was at Paul Fest when I found out the news. But we're hoping to do that in Oakland County and Berrien County and a county in Pennsylvania. But the point being that this is possible, and it's actually fairly easy. I'm finishing writing a guide on how to stop the NDAA, and I'll be releasing that guide out to John, where you can get it out to everyone who's on this, or you can go to our website and contact us and request the link. But point being, nullification is now our option. Nullification is the most effective because we can't solve this problem on a national level all at once. We've seen that with the RNC. We've seen that with the corruption, how they're going to fight us on the national level. However, if there's 20 of you in your county and you go down to your county commission, they have to listen to you a lot more than your representative in Congress. So the future of the liberty movement, from where I see, is nullification on a community, on a county, and on a state level of the laws that are unconstitutional and returning us back to the Constitution, county by county, state by state.
Awesome. Yeah, I've heard a lot about nullification lately, and it seems to be the right way to go with government getting bigger, and you can't really fight the federal government using the federal government, so it seems like starting with your county is the best way to go nowadays. And a lot of people always forget about the local elections because they get so wrapped up in these presidential elections, they forget about this kind of stuff.
Agreed.
Okay. Any questions from the audience down there?
We're now taking questions. You guys want to pop some in the chat queue? All right. I do not work with the 10th Amendment Center, although we work alongside them. They're very good partners, and they're doing a good job stopping the NDAA as well. And the link to our Facebook and our website I will post in the chat queue.
I think.
Any other questions you want me to field there, John?
I don't know, I'm having a hard time keeping up with the chat there. You have some Paul Fest fans there. One person, do you suggest we support and join Oath Keepers? Or do you work with them at all?
Yes, we actually, Oath Keepers, the Ohio branch, helped Panda get started. And we are working with Oath Keepers. I recommend this highly. They have a billboard campaign going up. As you well know, our last line of defense is the American troops and the American military. And this billboard campaign shows the American military. It has a billboard where it says, do not enforce sections 1021, 1022, 1023 of the NDAA, and honor your oath. And those would be outside of military bases along with Oath Keepers training these military in what their oath actually is. So I do recommend Oath Keepers very highly, and I would recommend giving to their billboard campaign because educating the troops is really our last defense. Karen Ann, how would I organize a group to talk to local officials? That will be covered in the guide that comes out on our website. It'll be a guide to fight NDAA, but it really can be used to nullify any unconstitutional law.
Let me see if I can post the link down there. This is
The link,
correct.
you got the link for our website? There you go. Bingo.
Yes. Has a lot of great resources. Can we nullify UN treaties?
Unfortunately, no.
Any last questions there? Tima, are you ready? How old are you? There you go.
I am 19.
Awesome. And Tima, you ready? Is Tima alive down there somewhere? Fail. Okay, I'm going to have Steve Parent go ahead and come up.
All right, excellent.
Yep.
Thanks for having me on, John. And if you guys want to ask me, I've seen a lot of things on Gary Johnson down there. If you guys want to ask me those questions, I'll answer in the chat a bit later.
Yeah, Steve Parent, go ahead and come up. Do you have anything else before we get off, Daniel?
Thank you for putting this together. I think it's going to be a great kickoff for pushing the liberty movement towards some real action. And I'm going to stop broadcasting now, let some other guests on.
I'm sorry for being a poor host. This is the first show I've actually hosted myself.
Practice makes perfect, my friend.
Yep. So we'll see how it goes in the future. Okay. Oh, Steve Parent. And let's see. Crap. I hate the SoundCloud thing. Steve Parent. American Freedom.
All right, hello everybody. I'm Steve Parent. I apologize. I dropped my laptop just before this show, so I cannot get on microphone, so you're stuck with just my voice. You know, there are a lot of things that I've seen since the Republican National Convention where Ron Paul did not get the nomination in the Republican Party. And it's a little disheartening to me to see all the infighting that's going on. You know, what essentially is liberty? Liberty in basic definition is the right of people to do what they choose as long as you are not harming someone else or someone else's property. So to chastise certain people for doing certain things because they may be uneducated or they're trying to, you know, fight on the winning team or, you know, pick the winning team of the Super Bowl. We have to understand the basics of liberty to be able to defend it. We have got to be able to practice the basic principles of liberty before we can promote it. This is one of the biggest problems that I've seen over the last 5 years as to what destroys a movement. Now, great movements are always destroyed from within, never the other way around. And one of the main things that's going to happen after this election is there's going to be three things. Number one, you're going to have your group of people that are just going to quit because they're fed up and they're going to go do their own thing. And that's fine. It happens every election. Number two, you're going to have your people that are just going to do whatever they want to do because you're not going to tell them what to do because that's what freedom and liberty actually is. And then number three, you're going to have your group of people that are going to stay in it, continue to grow the movement, and try to make an impacted effect on real change in this country. And those are the people that we actually have to reach out to and try to work with. You know, one of the things that I've seen over the last 5 years, and Michael Badnarik, who was the presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party 8 years ago, said this best, and I agree with him. We agree with each other 98% of the time on most issues, but we spend 98% of the time arguing, complaining, and fighting with each other about the 2% that we disagree on, and this is why nothing gets done. And I absolutely agree with him that that's part of the problem. We as a people have got to find a way to bridge the gap between the people that we like and we can work with, but more importantly, the people that we may dislike or don't get along with. Those are the ones that we have to try to find a way to work together. If we're all working for a common goal, why don't we start, and I've said this a lot, I know some of you probably tired of hearing it, but it's important for some of the new people here. You may not like the people you're working with. They may not like you, and that's fine. But we're all supposed to be on the same team working for a common goal. So why don't we just focus on the things that we agree on, forget about the things that we disagree on, let's get the job done, and worry about the rest later. Because if we're not moving forward, we're either standing still or we're going backwards. And I think that most of the people in this room would agree that our country is in real trouble. I watched the Republican National Convention. I watched some of the Democratic Convention. But what really amazes me, and I have a different take than some of you do, where the RNC was basically scripted in what the chair was actually doing, the same thing happened in the DNC. I don't know if anybody's actually saw those reports. But it was basically a scripted event to do what the party elites wanted them to do. Now, if they're going to these types of links to have to cheat people, cheat the American people that got involved and were elected legally to get their way, this means one thing. They are losing control. And we are actually winning the battles, although we have not won the war yet. So some people say, well, you know what? I've given up on the Republican Party because, what they did to Ron Paul was despicable. Well, I agree. But we also have to face a reality, folks. We just didn't have the numbers this time. We just didn't. And I know some of you don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts. But if any of you were around during the last election, we have made leaps and bounds compared to what has happened between 4 years ago and now. We were a force to be reckoned with. So what we need to do is continue to grow our numbers. And the only way we're going to do that effectively is to try to unite in some way. Because in numbers, we are unstoppable. We just didn't have the numbers this time around. But we've also tried to take over things on a national level. Now, I agree with the last young man that was here. You know, many of us have said this for years. We have to start locally. You know, this top-down type of authority is never going to work. We have to work from the bottom up, and it was never going to happen in a 4-year period of time. And I know some of you are out there thinking, well, you know what? Our country doesn't have 4 more years to continue to do this. Okay, let's just say hypothetically that you're correct. Does that mean that we quit? Do we go hide in a cave somewhere, you know, and wait for the shit to hit the fan? No, what we do, or at least what I'm going to do, is I'm going to continue fighting and moving forward until we get to that point, because there's nothing you or I right now at this moment is going to be able to do about it. So what do? We continue to move forward, united, and start to try to make effective changes. That's where we need to go as a movement. The next thing I'm going to talk about that I know has been very, very controversial. It's the infighting between the Ron Paul Liberty Movement and the Gary Johnson supporters. I wrote a post on the Daily Paul the other day. It's gotten a lot of attention where I just called for unity between this. Okay? I don't care who you vote for. All right? I'm not going to tell you how to vote. It's not my place to tell you how to vote. Your vote is just that, yours. But if somebody wants to vote for Gary Johnson, why do we have to resort to the name-calling and the belittling? It's their vote. You don't have to agree with them. Again, that's what freedom is. If we're going to defend freedom and we're going to promote freedom, we have to practice freedom. And we have to respect those people that want to express their freedom as well. Because if you try to dictate what someone else does, that's not freedom, that's dictatorship. I like to follow the example of Ron Paul. And it's very simple for me, and I don't know why it's so complicated for others. We cannot force our goodwill on anyone. We can only set good examples and hope people wish to emulate us. Why is that so hard to follow? It's quite simple for me. So let's educate these people. If you don't like the positions of Gary Johnson, you're not going to vote for him, fine. If you're going to write Ron Paul in, I'm not going to stop you. But what I am going to try to do is give you all the information so you can make an intelligent decision on what to do with your vote to make sure it counts. If you want to write it as a protest, that's fine. Again, I'm not going to tell you what to do. And I haven't decided who I'm going to vote for. I was not on the Gary Johnson bandwagon. I was 110% Ron Paul. But I did get to spend a little bit of time with Gary Johnson. He seems like a nice enough guy. I asked him a few questions that were tough. I was satisfied with his answers. I think some of what Gary is doing is playing a little bit of politics. But I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. See, that's our problem in this movement. Well, you know, my gosh, he did this 4 years ago and said this, and I'm not going to vote for him because of this one position. Come on, folks. Let's not focus on the things we disagree on. We've got to get along as a movement to make progress. If we don't listen to each other, then we're going to be individuals, and that's fine. But individuality is not going to change this country. Numbers and unity is what's going to change this country. We can't do it standing alone. We have got to do it standing together. Otherwise, we will fail. There is no other way around it. So, how do we do that? I can't tell you how to do that. You have to find it in your heart to be able to work with people that may or may not like you. You know, and I'm going to give you a prime example, then I'm going to let somebody else speak. But here's the problem. I was one of the staff at Paul Festival, and I'm not going to mention the person's name, but there was a guy there that hasn't liked me for many, many years. For whatever various reasons. And it's usually got to do with the division that's caused on the forums and people spreading rumors and whatnot. But I worked with this guy for 2 days at Paul Festival. We shook hands, we had beers together, you know, we laughed, we smiled, we shared ideas. And we were all standing outside, and somebody made a mention of me and how if it wasn't for me helping their delegation, that they really would have been, you know, screwed at their convention. And this particular person said, I don't like that guy. I've got real problems with him. And I'm standing 2 feet from the guy. And I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a total train wreck because I really thought he knew who I was, but he didn't. So the guy that was talking to him said, have you ever met Steve Parent? And he goes, no, I've never met the guy. And he says, well, I think it's actually time that you were properly introduced. And he's like, well, is Steve Parent here? And he's like, yeah, he's standing 2 feet from you. And he looks at me and he goes, you're Steve Parent? I'm like, yeah, I'm Steve Parent. And he goes, I had no idea. Do you know who I am? And I said, of course I know who you are. And I said what his name was. We shook hands. We hugged. He said, I want to thank you for what you've been doing. I had no idea that was you. But based on what he read about people wrote about me and what people were saying about me, he had no idea what I was trying to do for the common good. And the reason I brought this example up is until you actually start talking and working with people, it's real easy to say what you want as a keyboard cowboy. But when you meet people face to face, it's a lot harder to do that, especially when you don't know who they are and you've been working with them for 2 days and everybody's working their tail off and you're getting a job done and you're focused on a common goal. Guess what? That's what brings people together. This is why this divide and conquer mentality of I don't like this guy so I won't work with them and I don't like that guy will accomplish nothing as a movement. So my plea to you is find it in your hearts to not focus on the things you disagree with someone on. Focus on the things we agree on. And if that's only freedom, then let's start there and we'll worry about the rest later. I want to thank you for listening. I'll be part of the roundtable discussion later. My name is Steve Parent, and I appreciate all of you being here, and I hope that you'll stand with us.
Okay, so our next guest up is Joe Blaze, who's actually been he's worked on a lot of different projects now. He was originally one of the people that helped with starting up RonPaulTribune and Rides for Ron Paul to help get veterans down to Tampa. He helped with organizing the Veterans for Ron Paul March, and he even live streamed it for us. And here he is.
All right, well, it's a pleasure to be here. This is my first time in any of these formats, and I wasn't really sure what the format was going to be, so what I did was kind of write a speech that should take maybe 5 minutes. I guess my primary issues are local government. We have to take over at our state levels. Our states are sovereign from the federal government, and it's time we realize that. So here is my speech. My vision for the future of the liberty movement includes what I call the reinstitution of states' authority. First, I need to clarify and correct the misunderstanding that states have rights. States do not have rights, and that is a term we should avoid using. The states, through a contract, which we call the Constitution, created the federal government and can therefore dissolve it. The people have rights, the states have authorities. Once we understand that the states are superior to the federal government, we can see that we have misidentified our problem. Our problem is not one of an overbearing federal government, but one of cowering state governments. We must start demanding that our state and local governments stand up to the federal government. The states are superior to, and therefore have authority over, the federal government, and we can no longer accept the notion that it is vice versa. There are several avenues that we can take to bring about this change. One of the most important things we can do is work to install constitutional sheriffs in every county, in every state where applicable. Not every state has county sheriffs. I don't believe Alaska even has counties. As Daniel said, the sheriff is traditionally the highest ranking law enforcement officer in their respective counties and therefore have the authority to dismiss federal agents from that county. Sheriffs are the last line of defense against federal or even state tyranny. They are elected by the people of the county in which they serve and are answerable only to those people. Additionally, sheriffs are not only a legal defense against unconstitutional federal actions, they also usually have the authority to deputize, arm, and organize civilians into militias for the purpose of protecting the county and the state. Therefore, I believe that constitutional sheriffs should be high on our priority list. Another thing we can do to help restore liberty is to put good constitutionally minded people in their state legislatures. We need to elect people who understand that the real power is at the state level and who will stand up to the federal government by exercising the authority of the states which they represent. Certain provisions of the NDAA and the Patriot Act, as well as other federal laws, are clearly either unconstitutional or not in the best interest of the citizens of the states. We need our state legislatures to stand up and tell the feds that they will not be applying those or any other unconstitutional provisions within our states. We also must work to reinstate paper ballots in every township, precinct, and county where they are currently not in use. The Diebold machines are possibly the worst thing that we are up against in this fight. Does anybody really believe that the people have a vote in the upcoming election? Ron Paul, Gary Johnson, Roseanne Barr, whoever, they could get 100% of the actual vote and they would still not be president. The Diebold machine will elect your next illegitimate president, and there is nothing you can currently do about it. Without paper ballots, I, for one, will always feel that the system is compromised. Do you think that a George Soros-owned company counting the presidential votes in Spain is done because it's good for the people of the United States? It's done because it's good for the people who count the votes. Now, I know that many people will not agree with my last suggestion, but working from the premise that we need to take our state sovereignty back, I suggest that we get involved locally in both the Republican and Democrat parties. That's exactly what they've done. The people with powers that be are in both parties. We need to begin controlling the politics at our local levels in order to begin controlling politics at the state level. I've never associated myself with any political party, and the simple fact that I am an elected Republican delegate does not make me a Republican. I'm a Ron Paul Constitutionalist, and I will direct my efforts to helping my cohorts in securing control of our county and congressional district Republican parties, both of which are essentially givens in my district at our next conventions because we swept the Ron Paul delegates at our state convention. We've already got control of our CD and our county. Once we control 8 congressional districts, we'll have a majority of the state and we'll be able to put in the Republican platform our issues, such as the desire for paper ballots, the nullification of unconstitutional laws, the exercising of state authority, and the eviction of unwanted federal agents such as the TSA and Homeland Security. That's really the end of that, but speaking to some of the things that other people have been mentioning here, one of the things that we can do if we take control at our local level is go to the county and get rid of ICLEI. ICLEI is an Agenda 21 program that they give to local governments, and it tells them how to start implementing it. So somebody had mentioned ICLEI down there, nullifying ICLEI. We can't really nullify ICLEI, but we can go to our county and tell them what it is and to stop following the program. I think another big thing, Charlotte Iserbyt Thompson talks about the school system and how the public school system is really just a factory to push out soulless, non-thinking working machines. So either homeschool your children or get control of your local school board. Probably one of the most important things that we can all do is get involved and then stay involved. A lot of people start projects and then back out of it, and it leaves nothing there. Lots of Facebook pages out there that have good ideas, don't have anybody running them anymore. Once you get involved, you need to be committed and stay involved. And then obviously, educating others and waking up others is a very important issue. So that's it, I guess, for what I've got. Got questions or anything? I can read some down below. You're welcome, Shanarchy. Even one of the things that, a little simpler thing that we're doing now, building on what we did down at the Paul Fest, we raised money at the Paul Fest, and then we walked from the Paul Fest to the homeless veteran shelter, and everybody lined up and served the homeless veterans. What we're going to try and do along with that is expand it a little bit, but also put a message behind it that we don't want whatever. I don't know if it'll be a broad statement or a narrow statement, but it might be NDAA, to bring attention. A thing like the homeless march will bring attention from everybody, and then if we can tie that in with things like the NDAA to educate people on what the NDAA is all about, or even that it's out there, or Agenda 21, or all these real problems. You know, that's something that almost everybody can do, just locally get involved in some sort of a mission and then attach a statement to it. So I guess that's it for me. Counties, that would be sovereign counties would all be up into your state constitution. You have to read your own state constitution. The sheeple need to be informed. Like I said, one of the ways that you can inform the sheeple is get a mission that you're going to do locally and attach a statement to it. And make the mission something that people are interested in, and then use that to educate. I live in Marquette, Michigan. I do have a Twitter account, but I never go there. It goes by way too fast.
Oh. Thank you very much, Joe.
All right, thank you.
And next up we have Josh Tolley from the Josh Tolley Show. And he's about to hit 4,000 subscribers on his YouTube page, so everybody should go subscribe to him. Let me see if I can pull the video really fast. I mean the URL. So everybody go subscribe to his channel. And Josh, you can go ahead and start broadcast. Hopefully. There we go. Oh.
What's up?
Hey.
Should I try it again?
Well, you're only on microphone right now. Are you able to get video?
I cannot see myself. Can anybody see me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Well, you don't need to see me. I have a face for radio, so you don't need to hear me. That's all good.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, my hair's not brushed, so we'll just, you know, whatever. You're doing a great job, by the way, John.
Thank you very much.
All right, so I didn't really know what to talk about, so I just kind of watched everybody else, and I'm going to shoot from the hip a little bit. And if I pop up with a video, great. If not, whatever. Okay, so first, we talked to, a lot of people mentioned county sheriffs. County sheriffs are vitally important. A lot of you don't know this, but Joe Biden's own son is working to get rid of county sheriffs. If you don't know who your county sheriff is, now is a great time to go introduce yourself. County sheriffs are also elected, which means there's campaigns and there's politics involved, and they love to know what the local people are wanting and supporting. And the great thing about your county sheriffs or your county board, your school board, anything that's local, is they don't cocoon themselves. They don't have this opportunity to cocoon themselves. What we're fighting in Washington and why we never see change is because these people keep putting themselves in a cocoon. You can't approach them. But your local county sheriff is going to be at the T-ball game. Your local county commissioner, you're going to run into them at the store. So they're more likely to be held accountable to what the people want. So keep that in mind. Get local, man. And as far as nullifying Agenda 21 and nullifying everything else, the great thing about nullification is even if there's not a legal route to it through the process which created it, there's always a legal route to protect yourself from it even if we can't get rid of it. So what I mean is, just like if the sun comes out tomorrow, you can build a shelter and you can't stop it from shining, but you can nullify its effects by building the shelter. You build that shelter by building your county. I've heard everybody say it so far, and I'm so glad they're saying it. It's all about the county. You need to get your county in line. You need to get your state in line. And even, I'll take it one step even closer. You need to get your neighborhood in line. I love the idea that you're out there pushing liberty, but do you know who your neighbor is? And I get this question a lot. Well, Josh, you know, I want to save the world. Well, if you can't impact your county, you're not going to impact the world. So start local. Start local. The other thing that was coming up in the chat feed there was your thoughts on Gary Johnson. A lot of pro-Gary Johnson, a lot of anti-Gary Johnson. I was asked recently on another show my thoughts on Gary Johnson, and quite frankly, I don't agree with Gary on everything. However, the thing that I like about Gary is it's kind of like electing a doctor. When you elect Barack Obama or when you elect Mitt Romney, you know they're going to harm the country. But even if you don't agree with Gary, it's kind of like a doctor. You know, they take that vow to do no harm. So by electing, we did elect, yeah, I get it. We wanted to elect a doctor, Dr. Ron Paul. That's why I used it as an example. But by electing Gary Johnson, you're electing somebody who at least won't do any harm. And I mean, and let's just be honest there too. The odds of getting him elected are, you know, pretty slim to none. So what's the point then? The point is to get into a position where at least we can keep the conversation going. If we get Gary Johnson to 15% in the polls, supposedly they're going to let him participate in the debate. Now, okay, hold on, let me backtrack. Gary Johnson on abortion and Gary. Here's the thing about that too. When you elect a president, you're not electing a king. We have a tendency to forget that. Gary Johnson, if he's pro-abortion, or Gary Johnson, if he's anti-abortion, has no impact in reality on what you can do at your effort to be pro or against abortion. You understand what I'm saying? So when we look at who we wanted to be as president, even if we got Ron Paul in, I'm honest here, even if we got Ron Paul in, he would still have to get through the two houses. We're not electing a king. So that's why it's vitally important that you elect somebody who's going to do no harm, and we're really electing a gatekeeper, not a king. So because of that, get back to your counties and get back to the fight that we really can fight. Now, the other thing that we're going to see, and we're already starting to see it from the two political party conventions, and that's the pushback from the establishment. A lot of people thought, okay, well, all we have to do is get people woken up and get people out there voting and motivated, and we're going to win. And we expected, like, the establishment was just going to say, oh, you guys are absolutely right. We were so wrong. Here, just take the party from us. And now we're starting to see that pushback, not only from the Republicans, but also from the Democrats. The Republicans, John Boehner, who was supposed to be the conservative, right? I mean, give me a break. Makes me want to puke. But he was on stage telling us how it's going to be harder next time to do what we've already done. So we need to have a shift in strategy. I love the idea of taking over the party from the inside. Love it. But it can't be the only strategy, because that's playing their game. Yes, it's something we need to win. Yes, it's something we need to fight, but it can't be the only form of strategy. So that, again, comes in this position where we need to get counties, need to get the cities, and even if we look at this idea of getting behind a third party, that too has to start at that county level. No third party on earth is going to make a run for the White House their first time on the national stage and make it. It's just not going to happen. Even if the door was open, the awareness to the people isn't there. So you need to start getting those state governorships. There's only one in the police, 20. So you have to get to this point where you start having victories as independent-minded people. And I guess that comes to the next topic, and that's the people who are actually on the receiving end of your great information as liberty fighters. You might have awesome information, but if they're not ready for it, if they're not ready to change their beliefs, you're not going to get past their mental barriers. So you can't just be hammering them. When people do that to you, you reject it. So what you have to do is you have to find an area of life where they already have an established belief, and then have them challenge it themselves. So I hope that makes sense. The other thing I wanted to talk about real quick, homeschooling, and somebody mentioned that. I think it was Joe. Homeschooling is becoming more and more important as the state becomes more and more totalitarian. Homeschool, or your departments of education are starting to implement what's called pre-K. Pre-K is something that is extremely dangerous. The reason it's dangerous is because studies have shown that the greatest age of education is between 3 and 5 years old. So the state said, okay, well, what we have to do then is we have to make sure that we have some form of education implanted in the minds of these 3 to 5-year-olds, and they're starting to get your children younger and younger and younger. Now, I know there are great teachers out there, and some of them are ignorantly complicit in what's going on, but you have to take responsibility for your own children. What really alarms me is I wrote an article in 2010 about how over 500 children were shot in school in Chicago. It's more dangerous in Chicago than it is in Afghanistan. How many people are protesting schools in Chicago? And the answer is none. And it comes back to that, we can affect some things, but we're not focusing on the things we can affect. We're focusing on the things that are million-mile challenges. So we have to get back to securing victory. And when you secure victory on a smaller scale, you're going to motivate people around you who weren't behind it before. They're going to see your example and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to get involved in this push. I'm going to stand up for children. I'm going to stand up for food. I'm going to stand up for non-GMO, whatever the cause happens to be. What happens instead is they see us push for the White House every 4 years, and they see us lose every 4 years. So then it's an uphill battle every 4 years. We actually start with less numbers than we had when we left the last election cycle, because nobody wants to line themselves up with a losing organization. Now, we know we're not losers, you and I, but the people who are out there who get most of their information from shows like David Letterman and The Tonight Show, they don't know that. They see, oh, well, see, here they go again. And that's why, in some senses, Ron Paul actually got more coverage last election cycle, because people were curious. People who weren't Ron Paul supporters were at least curious. Now, this time around, they're like, oh, yeah, it's those people again. They don't know the definition of those people, but they just mentally say, oh, yeah, there it is again. So we need to start making small victories. The other thing I'm going to tell you is the best time for you to make progress is December of this year. Because after November, all the big players don't play. Everybody's done. The commercials are over. The votings are, or the ballots are closed. And you can use the example of whatever just happened as a window or an opportunity to address issues where normally those people would have a closed mind. Because let's just be honest, right now, if you're talking to an Obama supporter, they're already an Obama supporter. If you're talking to a Romney voter, they're already a Romney voter. But after November, it starts over again. And it allows us the opportunity to lay in those fresh mindsets and those fresh ideas. The other thing we have to do is we have to start getting back to a place where we kind of market liberty. We have a tendency to treat it as something that's, you know, on the back shelf or something that we're conducting in the back room. We need to make it the popular thing again. We need to get to this point where we embrace the message, we promote the message, and we live the message. People need to see you supporting things that you don't even really partake in. For example, I'll give you an example. I'm a non-smoker, but I need to stand up for people who smoke because I realize if they lose their freedom, I lost it too, even though I don't choose to engage in it. A lost freedom for one person is a lost freedom for every person. So that's my little take on that. Are there any questions while I am still not being allowed to see what is going on the screen? Actually, I can see the chat room. His second-hand smoking hurting my property. You know, not. Hold on. What are your thoughts on voting? Oh, okay. Voting for lesser voting for the lesser of two evils. Let's talk about that for a second. One, it's still evil. Two, the evil deeds done then are on your hands. I would rather have evil reign and me not have my hands bloodied than to have evil reign and have my hands bloodied by that evil. I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. I would rather stand up for principle and lose than to roll over and lose. Because newsflash, we're losing. So if we already know we're going to lose, you're going to have to pick some point in your life to stand up and say, I'm not going to go any further. I'm not going to yield. I'm not going to bend on liberty, on freedom. Even if it's freedom that you don't agree with. It's still freedom. So we need to get to this place where we realize, you know, this whole idea of voting for lesser two evils, or if you vote for somebody else, if you write in Ron Paul, then you're just voting for Obama. Let me tell you something. If Romney can't win, don't let them blame you for it. How ridiculous is this? That's like watching a football game and they blame the fans for the incomplete pass. Romney's job was to get your vote. His job was to earn your vote. And if he can't earn it, don't let him blame you for it. That is just absolutely ridiculous. So if you're going to vote for Ron Paul, great. If you want to vote for Gary Johnson, great. It's up to you. Like somebody else said, that's your freedom. Live out your freedom. But don't let them convince you that your freedom is something that needs to be avoided. Don't let them convince you that your freedom is something evil. Think about how twisted that is. They're now convincing you and your friends and your neighbors that you living out a moral life and you living a life true to your conscience is selling out. What the hell is that? Selling out is giving up your freedom in order to vote for somebody because he's the lesser of two evils. That makes absolutely no sense. You know what? You know what somebody's called who's willing to sell themselves for money? It's called a whore. So Mitt Romney wants you to be his little whore, and he wants you to sell it yourself for him, and he's going to smack you in return. We have to say, okay, we've had enough of this. If they lose, fine. If the nation fails, fine. But we're not going to fail. Because even if the nation fails and the liberty movement is united, then guess what's going to be rebuilt? The liberty movement. Even if, heaven forbid, something catastrophic happens, you still have to make that decision to stand up for what you believe in. We're a divided nation now. We're losing now. The Democrats just got spit on by their own leadership. The Republicans just got spit on by their own leadership. This is prime ground for you to get out there and say, look, adults don't act like this. If anybody you know has children, and they acted the way the Democrats and the Republicans have acted at their two conventions, you would ground them. You wouldn't vote for them. And you wouldn't aid them in their destruction. If you had a relative who was a drug addict, Would you give them money because it's the lesser of two evils? Well, I better give them money so they don't go steal something. Either way, you're empowering the evil. So that's all I have to say on that. Just keep up the good work. Just keep fighting the good fight. Just don't give up, especially now between now and November, because your example can set the example that we need. They can say, look, those people didn't yield. Those people didn't forfeit their belief system. And I can bet you dollars to donuts, if Romney gets into office, we're going to have a position where the people are going to sit there and say, wow, we were lied to. And now we have the footage, the YouTube tapes, the whatever. We have what we need to go back to them and say, see, we told you this would happen. You don't have to believe me. Just watch this. We've documented this process so well this time around, and I mean all of us, that we have what we need when the people feel disillusioned. Now, I have to tell you one thing that I'm kind of torn on. Part of me thinks that if Romney actually gets in, it's going to lull people to sleep. They're going to have a false sense of victory. And that worries me. So if Romney does win, and it seems that the establishment wants to push it that way, if he does win, then you need to remember to take this fight and amplify it. Don't give him an inch. From day one, start holding his feet to the fire. Start pointing out what he's done. Start asking apologies from people who voted for him. So that's all I have to say about that. If there's any questions, I'll answer a couple. If not, I will I'll vacate the room and let somebody else get up there. What about Jill Stein, Josh? Jill Stein is another third-party candidate. If you feel that Jill Stein represents your values, then vote for her. See, here's the thing. I don't care what the third-party candidate is. I don't care if it's green, constitutional, libertarian. If somebody believes what you believe, then that's where your vote should go. A wasted vote, or a vote is never wasted if it's a vote that lines up with your beliefs. A vote is only wasted when it doesn't line up with what you truly believe in. And I think that's it. So, John, thank you so much. Had a great time, and I'll talk to you later, man.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's amazing how you're able to just talk like that. I get nervous even trying to be able to discuss all these different topics just randomly. And I know she wanted a video played as intro. Qadoshyah Fish, whenever you're ready to start broadcast.
What if you lived in a country that was established on basic personal liberty and freedoms? And hundreds of years ago, our fathers fought to their death for that country to be freed from their oppressors. What if they warned us of a government not guided by individual freedom and rights to liberty, and told us how to avoid being enslaved by such a government? What if over the generations we slowly strayed from those instructions, and now you realize how far from those rules our government has taken us? What if you realize you are being deceived by what is called common sense, and you recognize that it is not evil to want your freedoms back? What if you realize tyrannical rulers are taking your money and only returning with more regulations on you and your countrymen? What if they printed paper and told us gold is not money? What if you realize that you have sacrificed your liberty for security and now you deserve neither? What if the people of this country have tried to convince themselves that killing their children is somehow morally correct? What if your leaders are truly supporting the murder of these helpless children, and then they try to persuade you to support them? What if some of these rulers claim to be pro-life and then attempt to justify voting for the funding of murder? What if your president is lawless and has broken his oath, yet for some reason he is not being held accountable for his actions? What if we, as a nation, spend money we do not have bringing down rulers of other countries because they oppress people, and then you realize that your rulers are not far from the same? What if you are told that this is the way it must be, and that our forefathers were mistaken and did not understand how to keep this country free? What if we, as a country, wake from our sleep and put an end to the cries of helpless babies being murdered by the thousands with no one to save them? What if we wake and stop the killing of our soldiers in unending and worthless wars, and we bring them home to protect this country that is called the land of the free and the home of the brave? What if it is time to rise, be brave and not slumber, to confront the tyranny and murder being forced upon us? Time to stand between the dead and the living. Time to say enough to the slaughter of precious little lives. Enough war, enough greed, enough oppression. Enough stripping of our liberties. Do you realize all these what-ifs are actually truly what is going on around you? For too long, we have not heeded what our founders warned us of. They warned that all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Neither have we heeded the words that commerce with all nations, alliance with none, should be our motto. It is time to change this lawless government. And now we are told that the only choices we have are men that sometimes say good things, but their actions prove they support the murder of children, that they fear a free and armed people, they are greedy, support big corporations and bigger government, and they do not follow their own laws, which make them lawless. Yet there is one man who stands out from the rest. He thinks outside of the political box. So much so that they think he's crazy. Is it wrong to promote following the Constitution? Is it wrong to believe in peace? Is it wrong to advocate putting an end to nation building and policing the world? Is it wrong to speak out for the poor and needy? Is it wrong to say that any candidate but Ron Paul will pull this country further down the drain? It is time for the Ron Paul revolution. It is time to finally have a leader that understands and promotes peace, prosperity, and freedom.
Okay, and welcome Qadoshyah Fish from Liberty Live Stream Team and Parking Lot Patriots.
Thanks, John. Glad to be here with everyone. Can you guys hear me okay?
Very good. Do you want me to stay up?
Can you hear me okay? Okay, good.
Do you want me to stay up?
I can do it.
Okay.
Well, I was one of the delegates who wasn't seated down in Tampa, so it's been kind of a wild ride for the last few weeks. You know, there's a lot of people who left Tampa feeling like everything was over, you know, there's nothing left to do. So really, because the Republican Party really did hurt themselves in Tampa, you know, and you know, a lot of people are saying they're done with the party, and I totally understand where they're coming from, but you can't give up yet. You know, I'm going to go over a few things that will hopefully encourage you to continue on being involved in the Republican Party. Of course, there's going to be ways some people feel that they can promote liberty in another without being involved in the party, and that's completely fine. But I feel one of our strongest ways of promoting liberty is actually being involved in the Republican Party. You know, what we saw last week was the last 2 weeks of August was just the Republican Party breaking rules time and again and ignoring the people and all these, you know, different things. And it was basically just a way to shut us out, those of us in the Liberty Movement. But what it really did was just energize us more and encourage us to be more involved. You know, I worked hard with a lot of people leading up to that convention. And we did a lot to get Ron Paul nominated and fight for states that had rules broken and that weren't seated, you know, or various things. And if the Republican Party had followed their rules, that national convention would have been completely different, because there would have been some of the contests that were brought with several states wouldn't have been up because they would have been following the rules. You know, there were 6 states that nominated Ron Paul. And the Republican Party, I think the reason why they broke so many rules is because they were actually scared of us. Most people know what happened with Maine. Maine had just enough of their delegates unseated so that they couldn't have a plurality for Ron Paul. They had signed the nomination form weeks prior to the contest, but then the RNC threw out half of Maine's delegates, so that would have been state number 7. Oklahoma was the state I'm from, and I was one of the delegates who was not seated, but also took that contest to the RNC to request that 25 delegates be unseated because they weren't rightfully elected. And so if they would have been following their rules, myself and several others who just happened to be Ron Paul supporters would have been seated, so that would have been state number 8, which the new rules required 8 states. Louisiana also had their rightfully elected delegates unseated, just like Maine, and so that would have been state number 9. So we would have surpassed their new requirement that these rules that they shoved through, which improperly, would have required. And so, but they didn't want, the establishment did not want Ron Paul speaking. I mean, if he were to spoke, people would have heard the truth, and the convention could have been a completely different convention. I mean, I saw what happened when Ron Paul spoke in Texas, and people came out of that convention completely in tears saying, I was duped, just because they heard him speak for the first time. So with all that they've thrown at us to shut us out, we've still managed to make quite a difference. And I think they've done so because they're scared of us. And that's why we need to stay involved. You can get involved at your local level. You take your state party offices, your county chairs, your vice chairs, your state chairs, your national committee man, national committee woman, their state executive committee. That's how we change this party, is by getting involved locally, because those are the people who ultimately will be changing the national, the RNC chairman, like Reince Priebus. He should go, but if we just all leave, then the establishment wins and gets what they want, because all of us who care about freedom and the Constitution have been fed up, and so it'll just continue the same downward spiral with all these people who absolutely don't care about rules and don't care about the people and any of this kind of stuff. Most of us know about Iowa and the successes they have had there for the Liberty Movement, and Nevada and Minnesota. All 3 of those states went to Ron Paul completely at the convention. He got the majority of the votes from each of those states. Maine has done a great job of winning the state for the Liberty Movement also, and they would have all gone, that state would have gone completely for Ron Paul had they been seated. And then, but another state we don't really hear about much is Virginia, and they own their state completely. They flipped their entire executive committee, executive state committee, from being, there's about 25 Ron Paul people to 50-something establishment people, to the complete opposite, where they have 50-some-odd Ron Paul people on that committee now, and only 25 Ron Paul people. And just because people are involved, just because they've had so much success staying involved in the party, and so now they've been able to change the system so that their conventions can be run better, their primaries can be run better, and so that's what all of us should do. Follow the states who have done this already, and let's do it in your own state. I mean, Oklahoma plans to do that, Lord willing. And if we all do this, we can really, really make a difference. It's not going to be easy at all, and it's going to take some time. Texas has done really well. I witnessed what happened at their state convention, but it took them a good 4 years from having a terrible state convention until this last year to where they could actually make a difference and run a fair convention. And so it's not like it's something that's going to happen overnight. What a lot of us went through over the last 2 months leading up to this national convention took a lot of work, and then we were all just railroaded through. But we have to stand for what's right, and we have to continue to stand for what's right, even if we're the last one standing. And that's why I say, for those of us in the party already, the Republican Party, I think we should stay and stay involved. And that's why, some people, I'm working on an open letter to our state chair to call him out and hold him accountable, because we have to hold these people accountable. If we just sit by and work quietly within the party, we're not going to get anywhere. We have to stay there and make our voices heard. People are not going to like us for what we stand for if we stand for the truth, but so be it. There's also want to cover the issue of who do we go vote for, you know, in the presidential election. Because there's a lot of, since Ron Paul didn't get the nomination, a lot of people seem kind of like, oh, well, where do we go from here, and who do we vote for in November? You know, if there's no one who stands on principles and stands for what's right, we don't have to vote for anyone. Voting for Mitt Romney is voting for the lesser of two evils. Voting for Obama is voting for the lesser of two evils. And in my opinion, for me, voting for Gary Johnson is voting for the lesser of three evils, you could say. And so, Ron Paul has taught us to stand on principles, and so we should continue on that path no matter where it is. You know, I don't want Romney to win, and I don't want Obama to win, but I'd rather see 4 more years of Obama than 8 years of Romney. And just by us not voting, we will show the establishment we're willing that they can't win without the liberty-minded people and the people who stand up for what's right. You know, obviously, we all have the liberty to do what we want. We're all liberty-minded individuals, and, you know, we believe in freedom. But for me personally, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. But for me personally, I can't stand for someone like Gary Johnson because he's pro-choice. And so I feel if you don't stand for life, then you can't stand for liberty. Because we must protect life, liberty, and property. It's either all three of those or none at all. So I have to vote on my principles, so I can't support someone like Gary Johnson. And so I feel for the November election, for those of us who don't know what to do, just don't vote for anyone. And, you know, obviously it's your freedom to vote for whoever you want, but there's no reason we have to vote for anyone. That pretty much wraps up where I feel we should go, just stay involved in the party and keep standing up for what is right. I'll hand this back over pretty soon here if there's any questions I can answer here. My voice is about to go out, so I like to always close with you also check out my website sometime, atruechurch.info. So you guys can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/Qadoshyah, that's QADOSHYAH. So the site again is atruechurch.info. I'm glad to answer any questions. I'll be in the roundtable a little bit later, so any candidates running in Oklahoma? There are a couple candidates running in Oklahoma. One is Nathan Dahm, and he's really kind of like the Ron Paul of Oklahoma, a lot of people say. So I'm going to hand this over to John since my voice can't take anymore right now. Thanks, guys.
I still have my parking lot Patriot shirt.
Yeah, that was quite a statement.
Okay, so if Chalhund, are you ready? I don't know if he's able to. Okay, we're just going to go over to Tracy Diaz from Talking Liberty. Okay, here's Tracy.
Hi. I just have to say, Chowhound, I miss you and I love you so much. And I wish we could have heard what you have to say because it's important and really sad that you weren't able to speak tonight. After sitting here and I have to say I'm honored. Hi, everyone. I'm honored to be in the company of all of you guys. What we're doing here on a Friday evening, depending on your time zone, for me it's 9:30, with 90-somewhat people sitting here and watching. It's phenomenal. I mean, you know, do you know any Romney supporters that are sitting here doing this right now? Probably not. We're doing it because we care about this country and the future of the country and where we're all going. And my personal opinion after living through these past few months is, you know, one of tolerance, because there are a lot of Ron Paul supporters who are so invested in Ron Paul himself that they're going through a period of mourning. And so, and it sounds crazy, but it's true. At every point, you know, it's almost like they lost a loved one. And if they have some opportunity, I mean, if you lost a loved one, God forbid, and there was some glimmer of hope that you could revive them from the dead and have them be there with you, wouldn't you put all of your effort into doing something like that? Of course you would. So I don't hold any animosity for people who are still focusing their energy on getting Ron Paul to run third party, even though it's not going to happen. You know, people have their own period to go through to mourn and grieve and sort of come to their next understanding, which is, I've done this already. I've done this a few months ago. I knew a while back that this wasn't going to happen. And so I started myself on the path of trying to figure out where we're going to go next. What do we do? How do we keep this going? And I'm sort of like of the mindset that we're actually living in an awakening period right now for not just us but everyone around the world. I feel like we're in sort of a spiritual awakening where people are starting to understand that you know, what's going on everywhere is not the right thing, and that freedom is within everyone and liberty is within everybody, and it transcends politics. It transcends, you know, right versus left, libertarian, you know, constitutionalist. It's more about humanity right now, and we're all learning and growing and figuring this out as we walk along. But you know, just look at the, you know, Arab Spring and things like that. I mean, it's happening everywhere, and we need to embrace this and use it to move forward and be tolerant at the same time. And Steve Parent made a lot of good points earlier about the infighting, and he's absolutely right, and I'm not an advocate of that either. I feel like there are two different segments that we need to concentrate on. One segment is the people like Q who want to focus on changing the party. That's not where I stand, but I don't hold, you know, that against her. I think we need people on the inside and the outside. So we need the people inside to help us when we need things from the outside done. My focus is going to be on nullification, which has been brought up a lot this evening. I had the pleasure of interviewing a good friend of mine last night, Michael Bolden, who's the founder of the 10th Amendment Center. And he founded the 10th Amendment Center in 2006. It's been around for a very long time, and he wrote a letter appealing to Ron Paul supporters to come home, because there are things that we can do at a very local level to affect change that are going to make a big difference as we move forward. We are the people here. We're the ones with the numbers, and we're the ones who have the strength, and we're the ones who will be able to move this forward over the next, you know, few years and beyond. I am of the mindset that we don't have 4 more years to just sit back on our laurels and hang out and wait, that we need to take action and we need to get involved, and we need to do it on a local level via nullification, via, you know, activism, via petitions, via calling our congresspeople, because we can't just wipe the system out overnight. We already know that the system is corrupt and we can't work with the system. It's never going to be productive as far as I'm concerned. So we need to take it into our own hands. We need to understand that we are making history right now, and when we get older, our kids and their kids are going to look at us as the people that actually brought this country back to its foundation and where it stands for purity and liberty and freedom. And we also need to understand that, you know, even a communist or socialist or anyone like that, in those mind frames, they all yearn for freedom of some sort. So there are definitely parallels where we can work with people across the aisle and into even territories where we didn't think we'd actually be gaining a footing to affect change on certain issues. And we need to focus on those things. We know that the two-party system is corrupt. We watched the death of our electoral process and our republic at the RNC and then again at the DNC just recently. We have a hard fight against in front of us, but the responsibility lies with the people, you, me, everybody in this room, everybody around the country, to live free, literally. And it's a scary thought to reject the laws you don't agree with and just live like a free individual. It's very scary to think about what you need to give up, as we've all been conditioned and we live in a police state, and rules and laws are there at every facet, and it's hard to comprehend breaking those. But we need to face that fear and stand up and live free. And it's a very simple concept. It takes a lot of courage to implement. But if we actually focus on it, and we make it one of our goals to be a true patriot and do what our founders did back in the day, I believe that we can take this country back. And yes, you need to be able to put your life back on the line if you have to. It's going to happen at some point where we're going to need to band together and take action and restore liberty and freedom to not only this country but the world. We're a beacon for people. There are people in countries all over the place looking to us for an example and wondering what we're going to do. I mean, you know how many Ron Paul supporters there have been all over the world. So what we need to do is focus on the spiritual awakening that's going on right now, and it's a great thing. You just have to embrace it. Then take that energy and focus on living free every day of your life and understanding the sacrifices you'll have to make, but what the greater good will be for our children and their children. And I've got 2 little children that I'm doing this for. So that's pretty much all I want to say. Thank you guys for listening. I think there's a video right now that we're going to play to close this out and open up the round table. And I love all you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Only a third of American colonists believed that the Revolutionary War was necessary, and they changed the course of history forever. It is our turn now to do the same. We are willing to lay down our lives for the cause of liberty if it is required of us. And it may be
there's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Civil disobedience is a very important tactic, and although I endorse that principle, I have chosen the alternative, and that is working within the political system. But I can foresee a time not too far off. I think a lot of young people are going to say, hey, maybe I ought to practice civil disobedience.
Okay, and that wraps it up for the first part of the show, which actually went a lot longer than what I expected. So now we can go ahead and start the roundtable if the guests, the rest of the show guests want to hop up in here. Oh,
here I am.
One in here. Okay, let's see if we can get the rest. Okay. Where'd Tracy go? Steve, come back. Yeah, there he is.
There we go. There's Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, trying to get
You know,
rest. Oh, there's
yeah, you know, Yowan, while you're getting everybody...
Yes, sir.
While we're waiting for everybody to get up here, why don't you launch this thing with Liberty Unleashed? Because that's really what we need to do is unleash liberty to really get this thing moving.
Okay, everybody mute your mics if you don't, unless you have headphones. See if I can find it.
Just a video?
Yeah, just go to my SoundCloud. Now, it's actually a song that I wrote. By the way, I'll give you a little bit of background while Yowan's looking for it. A good friend of mine by the name of Brian Seaman, who was one of the main organizers for Paul Fest this year in Tampa, he came to me 4 years ago and said he had a show that was called Liberty Unleashed. And he came to me and said, you know, I want you to write me a song, and I haven't written a song for years. I want you to write me a song that I can use to intro my show. You know, so it was really kind of tough for me because I'm like, what does Liberty Unleashed sound like? And from a musician, it was challenging for me, but the end result, I think, came out really good. And this was my personal interpretation of what Liberty Unleashed would actually sound like.
Is it Liberty Unleashed 2 on here?
Yeah, it was the second take. That's why it's called Liberty Unleashed 2.
Okay, making sure.
You're gonna have to move. You're gonna have to move the slider. You're gonna have to move the slider. Move the duration, John.
That's not it, is it? Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Okay. Okay, I guess we can go ahead and get started. I don't know where the rest of the people are.
I just saw Josh leave the room. He might be refreshing.
Maybe. Shanarchy should come up here too. Anyway, like I was saying earlier, I think one of the big things we need to focus on is just educating people. That way they can understand the whole liberty message and understand what they can do to help out. So,
I agree. I think nullification was touched on quite a bit in this entire broadcast, and I think the general agreement is nullification. But as just my 2 cents, I don't think we should leave this without at least getting contact information for each other offline of some sort. If John, you can organize that, because it's important for the leaders of the liberty movement. I guess I can consider myself one of those. But the grace of the liberty movement to get in contact with each other so that we can work as a team instead of as separate entities.
Yeah, I think the best way to share the contact information as far as that goes is in that little Facebook chat that we're in.
Coolio.
Unless you want to put out your contact information to everybody.
PandaUnite.org, but that's it.
Watch this.
Yeah, I would advise not giving out your phone number. I went through this for the last 5 years. It was not fun.
If you're Facebook friends with me, then you have my phone number.
I think that the important thing about all of this is really the key word of unity. We've got to find some way to unite together as a people to make effective changes, because, it's great to have individuality, and I appreciate all that, but we can't stand separately and affect change. We've got to stand together to make real changes, because the strength is in our numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, I'm putting down my contact information.
Dennis, I don't know what our numbers are. That's the whole point. I mean, I know that compared to the last election and this election, we have made absolute leaps and bounds in being involved in the system and showing our numbers. But we have to continue to grow those numbers, because the biggest problem is we really don't know as a movement how big we really are. Because we isolate so many people that we come into contact with the petty insults and the derogatory comments and the, don't tell me what to do, I'll tell you what to do mentality. We've created our own us versus them mentality, which is counterproductive. So we've got to be more humbled in our own ways when we address people, especially those people that we disagree with. Because those are the ones that you're trying to reach. And the first person to throw insults loses the argument, because there is no more dialogue at that point.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people here, there are a lot of people involved in the liberty movement, especially online, but it seems like a lot of people have started being quieter lately, haven't been as active, and what we need to do now is definitely be more active and louder than ever. Everybody needs to be going online, either making their own website, their own blog, their own show, or even YouTube videos. Just find out what you're good at, whether it's writing or talking or making images or whatever. Just figure out what you're good at and just do it. Also, there are some people that are not very good with the internet. The best way for you to get involved might be joining one of the organizations like People Against NDAA, the 10th Amendment Center, Young Americans for Liberty, or maybe even just going to door and explaining the message of liberty.
I think Margaret down here hit it on the head. A lot of people are still in shock. There was a lot of us people who busted their ass to do whatever they could to get Ron Paul elected, because we all knew that this, may be the last.
I want to touch on, if you guys don't mind, I want to touch on the question that was asked in the chat. Has there ever been a nonviolent revolution? And I would say Tunisia and East Germany. both of those were very nonviolent, and the military stood down.
Yep.
Wow, for somebody as young as you are, I cannot believe that you brought those up. You are a well-educated young man, and I'm proud to stand with you.
Thank you, sir. I'm proud to stand with you as well.
Wow, I'm blown away. Go ahead, Shannon. I'm sorry you got interrupted. Okay, well, Shannon's on her thing. No, that actually really encouraged me and started a fire in me, because I just cannot believe somebody your age is actually that well educated on nonviolent revolutions. It gives me hope.
That's good. I'm glad I could help.
Yeah, they have people asking, what does PANDA stand for? Maybe
Real simple. It's People Against the NDAA, but since PANDA sounds really weird, we just use PANDA.
I like Panda. Just yell it every time, you'd be good to go.
There you go.
All right. Do we have any questions from the chat room on what you want us to focus on? Otherwise, we're just going to kind of go into a roundtable discussion and try to share some issues. I think everybody up here would love to answer some questions that we didn't get to answer earlier in the segment. So if you have some, please post them in the chat room.
And one other thing. If any of you are currently working on a project, like making a website or a YouTube page, or working on setting up an organization, send me an email at Yowan.RonPaulTribune.com. Hold on.
Oh, Josh Tolley is back.
Oh, yeah. And I'll try to
Josh,
get you
come
on
on up.
your show.
Josh, come on up if you would. We'd love to have you.
She likes
you
Joe
guys,
Blake.
Who does? Your daughter does?
Yeah. She's been wanting to talk to him like the entire time.
Yeah, I don't think Joe can. Oh, he can hear us. I didn't know if Joe was in his own world or not. Joe, tell us what you think. I'd love to hear from you.
I guess most of what we talked about today seemed to be right on point. My main premise would be that we need to take it over at a local level. Whatever's going to happen at the federal level really doesn't concern us. Whoever's president, they're an illegitimate president anyway, and they're going to put in who they want. So we need to start taking over at the local level. And like I said before, we got to tell our state legislators to stop pandering to the federal government. The real power is at the state, and in fact, the real power is at your local. Your vote for your township supervisor is just as important as your vote for president, or actually, as we're finding out now, even more important.
No, I agree with you, Joe. I don't think you actually got to catch my segment, but that was exactly what I was speaking about, is this top-down mentality that we seem to think that we can do as a movement in a short period of time. It's just not going to work. It's the same thing the establishment does, which is try to work from the top down and control the people. We as the American people need to work from the bottom up at a local level and work our way to that national level, because we're not going to be able to do it over 4 years. We're probably not going to be able to do it over 8, but maybe. It's going to be a long-term project that's going to take dedication and commitment, and I concur with you 100%. We've got to start locally to be effective.
I agree with that completely, by the way.
Hey, do we want to put some sort of marking system for the chat box below? So if people want the question answered by one of us, then they mark it with, say, a double asterisk, and then we can know that that's for us and not someone else in the chat room?
Just answer them as they go. If they're directed at you, they'll say, obviously, Daniel, I have a question for you, and just go from there. I think that'll get a little bit too complicated.
Yeah, and actually, please call us out by name if you have a question for us. that would be helpful because the chat rolls through pretty quick, folks.
Perfect.
You may want to go on push.
Well, I would like to maybe.
Can you guys hear me?
What the heck? Josh, we'd actually like to hear what you have, your thoughts on how we move forward here.
Well, I think moving forward, we do get local. We realize that, shooting for the National White House is fairly ineffective. And in a way, it actually gives us a lot of pushback because when we go and approach people, they say, well, didn't you guys try that? Didn't you try that? And we need to realize we need to build upon successes. Even if those successes come in the form of running for dog catcher. And I know that, that a lot of people might say, well, dog catcher, but in reality, every county has an elected dog catcher, and most times it's not even a position that is ran for. Where I vote, there were 5 positions that were completely empty this year. All you had to do to win was show up. So we need to start realizing that there are opportunities for us to take ground. Once we take ground there, we can use that ground as an example to take a larger and larger and larger piece. And like somebody said as I first jumped on, I think it was Steve, and that's when we start really taking some momentum away from the establishment. The other thing we have to get ready for is pushback from the establishment. I kind of mentioned that when I was on before. We're going to see a huge amount of pushback now because we have had some measure of success. They're going to use the system that they already have and start taking back ground that we thought was ours. So just get ready for that. I want people to get ready for that so they don't take it as as a sign of defeat, or just get ready for it. It's not defeat. It's just the enemy being the enemy, and you can't really blame them for doing that. That's what they're there for. I mean, they push back, we push forward, and that's the name of the game.
No, I agree with you, Josh, and I don't know if you actually got to catch my segment before you. I spoke about that entire thing to where if the Republican, I don't know, did you actually get to see the scripted teleprompt responses at the convention on what the chairman was actually going to say from the RNC and the DNC? Have you seen that, Josh?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And that was one of my points. If they've had to go to these links to try to silence and control the people and the elected delegates, it means we're winning the battles. Now, we haven't won the war yet, but if they have to go to the taxes of actually scripting and cheating the people, we are winning. We just have to grow our numbers.
Well, you're right. We do have to grow our numbers, and part of that is realizing that there's a certain percentage of people who will join our movement because they wake up. And I think we're kind of hitting a crescendo there. Now we have to move past the people who have woken up and get to the people who haven't, or the people who might not necessarily agree with all of our positions, but recognize that the need for the restoration of freedom is vital. So we need to address that strategy a little bit. How do we get beyond the people who already are on our ship? And there's always that, whether it's in business or educational organizations, there's always that point where you're going to hit your level of topping out, the top of the S-curve in terms of people who, hey, I saw freedom to fascism, I'm with you. And we're kind of hitting that now. And I think you referenced it too in your speech, Steve, is we've seen the movement grow, and we've seen the movement kind of retract a little bit, and that's because we need to get past that ceiling of people who were looking for the answer. Now we have to get to the people who don't even know what the question is.
Well, no, I agree. I think one of the biggest problems that we have that I've seen over the last 5 years is we're trying to defend something that a lot of us still don't understand, which is the Constitution. I've watched people in things such as forums, and I know that some of you are going to say, why are we talking about this? It's because it's important. If we're going to defend the Constitution, we have to understand the Constitution. And one of the main things that I've seen a lot over the last several years is like on, Ron Paul forums or on the Daily Paul or on other forums. People are like, well, why are you censoring my free speech? I have a First Amendment right. Well, I'm sorry, folks, you don't. You do not have a First Amendment right on private property. Your First Amendment stops at Congress shall make no law. And the last time I checked, people like Michael Nystrom and, people like Ron.Paul.Tribune and Jesse and John and some of the other people in Liberty Chat and this room and Ron Paul Radio and Josh Tolley, we are not Congress. Okay, we're individuals, and that falls under property rights. So when you try to argue my First Amendment right to an individual that has property rights, you've lost the argument because you don't understand the Constitution. And if we're going to protect and defend it, we have to understand it. So we have to educate ourselves to move further.
We do, and I'm actually working on a documentary that kind of runs alongside that called Foreign and Domestic, Exposing America's True Enemies, because I started asking people on the show, what does it mean to defend the Constitution? You're not actually defending the piece of paper. The piece of paper is locked in a vault somewhere, thousands of miles away. You're not going to get close to the paper. When you talk about defending the Constitution, you're defending what that Constitution represents to the people that it applies to. And if you don't understand it, like you said, you don't even know if it's being attacked. And that's where we stand today. We have all these people in Tea parties and conservative parties and libertarian parties who say they're for the Constitution, but unless they know what it is, they can't identify the attack or the attacker. So we need to get, as Vince Lombardi said, we need to get back to a point where we say, gentlemen, this is a football.
I agree, Josh, and if you ever want my input for your documentary, let me know. I'll be more than happy to share whatever I have.
Cool. We'll be in touch. Matter of fact, Steve, weren't we supposed to be playing your music?
We actually have. We played a couple of songs tonight. That's kind of up to Yowan. He is... I meant on my show, actually. Oh, well, I think you actually used Liberty Unleashed as one of your bumpers. I don't know if you've actually used it. I haven't heard it. I try to catch your show as much as I can.
We could have. I don't actually do my own bumpers. The network does the bumper for me. But I thought I saw an email with your name in it with the music, so I'm hoping we're using it.
Okay.
Gosh, what happened?
Literature or a way to, this is for Karen Ann, literature or a way to begin the discussion with local law enforcement. Who wants to field that?
Say again? I'm sorry.
Literature or a way to begin the discussion with local law enforcement, county sheriffs, etc. I know, Joe, you talked about the county sheriffs, and so did Steve. Either of you want to field that question?
I'm not sure what the question was. I'm answering other questions in the other chat room.
I'd say definitely
Okay.
Sheriff Mac's book would be a great resource to read that and even give it to them.
Did you just ask that question? Because one of the things that AfterPaul exists to do is to show you guys that there are people with active projects on the ground that you can contribute to right now. Sheriff Richard Mack, yes, good start, guys. Hey, you don't have to do this on your own. There are people, okay, that's the whole point of AfterPaul, is like, there are people that have been working on these issues for a lot longer, and you kids don't need to feel like you have to do it on your own. There are people free to plug into, and guess what? Do we need new leadership? Yes, absolutely. Do you have your own ideas that you can bring to the movement and be leaders of? Yes, we're counting on you to do that. But don't think that you have to invent every damn thing on your own. You have some support here, okay? Like, we're here. We always have been here. And we love you kids, and we support you. But don't think you have to do everything on your own. Okay, as soon as you get an idea, look around on Google for who else is doing it. Chances are they're going to be able to give you some guide points, like some tutelage, some training, You have every right to expect that from us elders. You're not alone in this game. I'm out.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great point. For any project that you do, you should always do research, find out who else is already possibly working on it, and get involved with them. Try to start up different groups or even an organization eventually. You definitely don't have to do it on your own. But for the sheriff thing, definitely get Sheriff Mac's book. That's a great start. Having multiple people that are willing to confront your sheriff, present him with a book, give him the information, and tell him your thoughts. I mean, he's an elected official, so he'll want to know what his people are saying. I mean, just try communicating first.
Well, it's deeper than that, John.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's deeper than that, because I don't know if this was actually touched on or not, but the sheriff is the absolute highest authority in your county, above the president, because he is an elected official to obtain order in your county. So if you can find someone that's actually a constitutional sheriff, they can tell the Fed to leave or they will be arrested. This is the kind of power that a sheriff actually has in your county. They can tell the federal government to leave my county or my deputies will arrest you.
I'd like to add that sheriffs, at least in Michigan, don't need any law enforcement training. Anybody can run for sheriff and anybody can be elected for sheriff. Mainly, the sheriff itself is an administrative position. As long as your undersheriff has training, then everybody can get on the ballot. In my county, I don't know what went wrong, but I signed the write-in form and I turned it in and I wrote myself in, so I should have gotten at least one vote. Didn't do any campaigning, but it has to be very specific how it's written in, and I might have written it in the wrong order. My name, my party, my position. It might have had to been my name, my position, my party. Not really sure what went on there, but I will be on the ballot to the next one, simply because no Republicans run for anything around here. So it's not, even if you don't know. Somebody asked me, told me to run for sheriff, and I said, I don't know anything about being sheriff. And pretty much the response was, do you think anybody who's been elected for anything knows anything about what they're doing? So it's a pretty simple answer for me that no. They've gotten us in the problems that we're in, so we might as well have some lay people running for things. We can't screw it up any worse than they did, and at least we'll be honest when we do it. Out.
Okay. Sorry, I'm checking my emails now.
Another thing while we're got a little downtime here, I spoke earlier of becoming involved and maybe taking over the party. Again, where I live, nobody runs for anything. I'm the only one in my township who ran for delegate. We could have 6 delegates. We could have 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats. I'm the only elected delegate because I'm the only one that ran for anything. So it's not that hard to get involved. I realize when I talk to people in Tampa, it was different for them. It's different for a lot of people. Some places probably have more competitive races. But at least in my whole congressional district, we're going to take it over because nobody runs for it. So we went out and got people to sign up for it, and we had a hell of a lot of people elected as the delegates now. Now, whatever Romney did to take away our vote, or he's going to handpick us, it doesn't really matter because I'm an elected official in my township, and I can go down to the township and start making noise down there. So pretty much my first noise I'm going to go down there and make is we need paper ballots. Did I know what?
Joe, you make a great point. Joe, you make a great point, because what actually happened the last election, it was a group of delegates that I trained in a really, really small town in Missouri, and they got involved in the delegate process, and they got back to me after the delegate process was done and said, you know what, Steve, we actually took over every position, officer position, in our little territory, Because the most people that ever showed up for the 20 years that the people were running that particular district was 12 people. So this is why we've got to get involved locally, because we can be a force to be reckoned with, because so little people are involved in trying to be involved. We can be extremely effective. But if we don't get involved ourselves, we are not going to be part of the solution. We're going to be part of the problem. So get involved locally, and we can make a difference.
It shouldn't be that hard to become a delegate in a lot of areas. I'll bet 50% of you can go down and just sign up. You sign the piece of paper, you get on the ballot. You're probably going to run unopposed, or you won't run. Like we had 3. I know that some places they had 3 delegates could be elected, and they had maybe 9 people that ran. They did have to campaign, but in the majority of the area here, nobody's taking these positions, so we can just walk in and get them. And another thing that delegate makes you is a member of your county party. So when we walked in and got all those positions, we became the power in our county. So we have no problem in taking it over now. January is our election. Our committee chairman is out. Our guy that we want in there will be in, and we have no problems. It's not even going to be a fight. It's already done deal. Qadoshyah.
Can I fit in here?
Sure.
I want you guys to know that I occupy a very much different space than you guys do. You guys are with the GOP, like legalistic, like, take it by the rules thing. I'm Chowhand. I'm grassroots. We're actually warriors. So I'd say you guys are doing a great job, and I want to steer as many young people to you as I can. But for the rest of us that actually just serve and protect, like our own little Marine Corps, I think we're going to do that, and we are doing that right now. So I just wanted to hold out that there's other ways to serve the movement. Sorry, and I don't mean to contradict you. I don't mean to, but there's other ways to serve the movement, and that has to do with protecting the people, feeding us, throwing blankets over us. Steve Parent was a great example that, Steve down in Tampa, he had this motorhome there, and it was designed to sleep 8 people. Great. He had 20 people sleeping in this thing, and he fed me, and he watered me, and he kept me safe. He was our personal security service. So don't forget that aspect of just human service and down on the ground and grassroots. It has a lot more to do with just living the lifestyle and protecting one another and loving one another. And I just hold that out as a valid aspect of service as you do your great service, which I respect you for and I thank you for.
Well, not everybody can do the same things, and we need everybody at every level. If you can't get involved in anything else, the least you can do is wear a Ron Paul or a Freedom shirt or even a Gary Johnson shirt. Get out there and wear something that's a little odd, make somebody question you and educate them. If you can't do anything else, at least you can talk to other people.
Hey, I want to say something. If that's really, hold on a second, Chow. If that's really Julie Borowski down here, Julie, please come up on mic and join the roundtable. We'd love to hear your input. I'm sorry, Chow. Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay, Steve. And by the way, you're a dick because nobody disrespects the Chow, but you can because you're right. All right, I just wanted to send this message to the young people out there that if you don't feel like, getting involved in this GOP thing or putting on your clean-shaven face or wearing a nice shirt, if you don't feel like that's your way to serve, there are actually many ways to serve. And Chowhand is just an example. You can actually get involved with just really down to basics, just helping people with their daily needs. And it's a great gift that me and Steve and the guys uncovered. We actually saw that you people are ready to live together. You want to be together. You want to help one another. You have a great and giving and generous aspect that is not expressed by your ideology, as stated. You are gentle and loving people. You're very protective people. And, well, I would just hold out that opportunity to serve. If you want to serve in a very basic and direct way, Chowhand is there. I think we're going to do this because my team is telling me they want to do this again. My team is telling me that having served and done this mission, they feel like a great part of what has been missing in their life has been restored to them. And I think that's basically the warrior thing. We protect and serve. So I would hold that out to you young people and all you people. This is a very rudimentary way to just serve people. And that's it. Chowhound protects all people wherever we are. Period, end of story. And I thought that might enliven some of you. So I hold that out. And God bless you. Metakuye Oyasin.
Okay. Anyway, yes, that really is her, Steve. If you go to her profile, you can see that.
Yeah. She just sent me a Facebook message, John. It is confirmed. That is Julie Borowski. Julie, we're happy to have you. Josh, any input from you or anybody else in the round table?
Well, since I tend to go off on like 10-minute rants, I'll just let everybody else weigh in before I end up talking.
Yeah, but you know what though, Josh? Sometimes your rants are actually really good. You know, I get caught in rare form sometimes when I go into a rant.
Well, I guess I mean if people have some questions they want to ask or something I can cover specifically, I would be honored to. Other than that, it's just great just being here. I mean, to see this happening, you know, it's amazing because we've already taken up that mindset of no matter what happens, we're not going to accept defeat. We're going to keep fighting. Freedom and liberty is worth the fight. They can't define the victory for us anyway because they have no ability to define what it is we're really fighting for. If they really understood what it is that we were fighting for, they wouldn't be trying these cheap-ass excuses to try to lure us into their movements, and they would actually see reform in their party. Instead, what we're seeing is them, like you said, Steve, pushing back against us, trying to make it harder to change the party from the inside. And I think changing the party from the inside is definitely vital, and it should be part of a strategy. But we need a much broader strategy as well. We need to really realize what has been emphasized a lot on this show, and that's getting back to these county, city, school board seats. Like you pointed out, a lot of them go unopposed. Like I said, there were 5 of them in my last primary, completely open. All you had to do was show up. And there's other ways to serve, like Chow was suggesting as well. You get to this place where you start being a living example of that freedom. If you want people to embrace freedom, start living it out so they can see it and understand it and want to join you. To join something that's just political and talked about on television is hard for people who don't understand it. But when they see something being lived out around them and in their neighborhood, they're more apt to say, hey, let's join and let's just do whatever this is. We don't even have to give it a political name. And to answer Tax-Free's question, I'm currently right now in Wisconsin.
There was a lot of discussion down there about talking to sheriffs and about so I had given something to John that maybe we could play to give these guys in the chat room a little bit of training. Do you guys think we could play about a 4-minute clip of a video for these guys, for the guys that are watching our broadcast right now?
Yeah, it's like 3 minutes total, I think you gave me.
Rock on.
Yeah, I think it's like 3 minutes, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Anybody object?
Nope.
Okay, let's do it.
I had to find the part. I have to go to 245 here.
If everyone could mute their mics, that'd be great. Alright, I'm starting here.
Changes. And I think that it is incumbent upon us as county commissioners and as sheriffs to ensure that we act together, that we act collaboratively to protect the citizens that we were sworn to protect and took the oath of office.
Now if you're not wearing headphones, you need to mute your mic.
Yeah, it's not my mic, guys. I'm muted.
Chowhound here.
Chowhound, hit the mute button in the top middle of your screen.
To protect. So would you welcome Sheriff Terry Makita?
Thank you, and thank you, Sheriff Mack, for having me here. It wasn't my office that came forward with this resolution. It was Commissioner Littleton, who on her own had this brought to her attention and very aggressively had this resolution drafted. Obviously, it had to go through a series of attorneys. We have a fairly large county, which means we have extra attorneys, which means more people have to put their thumbprint on it. But within a matter of 7 to 8 days, had this posted through the legal requirements and before the Board of County Commissioners to be voted on unanimously. I think it was real easy for me to support this resolution. It was a no-brainer. It's doing what I believed I took this job to do. It's what I expect every one of my employees to do, whether sworn or civilian. And we've seen it too often now where federal agencies and state agencies are chipping away at the constitutional rights of our citizens by using bribe money. They're calling it grants. They're saying, if you don't do this, you're not going to get this funding. And it's time we say, I don't need your funding. And I tell all my friends that are chiefs of police that if you really want to serve citizens, run for sheriff. Because that's where you can hear them, you can listen to them, and you don't have to worry about a non-law enforcement elected bureaucrat trying to set policy with no knowledge or understanding of individual constitutional rights. And I think that's what we're here for, and I think that's what the Office of Sheriff stands for. And I find it no surprise that there are people around the country trying to do away with the Office of Sheriff, and that's where we truly need to stand strong. So thank you.
Believe me, there's nothing I could do for the state other than what I'm doing here today. But there was something that I could do for the county because I took an oath of office to protect the citizens of my county, utilizing every possible means within the law and abiding by the Constitution to enforce those laws that I could. And if I did not do that, then my oath, when my hand went on the Holy Bible, my right hand went up to take that oath of office, was no good. Right.
That should be it there, John.
Okay.
Now, what I want to kind of quickly cover on that video is you noted how Sheriff Arturo, who first, talked about erasing the office of the current sheriff. Now, this is something that hits home with a lot of your sheriffs, and that is the loss of their authority and the loss of their power to arrest or the loss of their power to be the ultimate authority in their county. You see in the Brandon Robbs situation that the local police were only used for transportation. That video is very powerful to show to a sheriff because you can see, hey, you guys just want to be a truck driver for the FBI and the DEA and the armed forces, or do you guys want to actually have arrest authority and arrest power? And that's a way to talk to your sheriff is, look, show him the authorities he's losing and then show him how to regain those. Show him what authority, or show your sheriff what authority they are losing, and show your sheriff how to regain that authority. That seems to be the best way that we've found to talk to sheriffs.
You know, to go back to Josh's comment about locally and so few people actually run for office, I know that some people, because I've witnessed this over the last, several months, is people are saying, well, why do I want to work with the people in the GOP the way that they've treated us and treated the delegates? And my response is very simple. If you take control of your local party, you don't have to work with them. They have to work with you. There's a huge difference. That's the goal here. We've got to take over locally so we don't have to work with these people. They have to work with us or they will leave, period.
I agree, and to emphasize that sheriff remark, I'm going to post a link I mentioned this before, and somebody asked, where did you find it? Here's a link. Joe Biden's son is working to take away arrest powers from sheriffs as we speak. So this is something that's real. It's something that's really happening. It's something that we need to address, because if the sheriffs are dismantled, then there's no buffer for us against the federal government. And there's some great sheriffs out there, and there's some other sheriffs who really, honestly, they don't know what their role should really be. So just keep that in mind, and approach your sheriff. Your sheriffs are usually approachable because, like I said earlier, they run in elections, so they want your votes. Unlike the chief of police or something like that, the sheriffs actually want to interact with the people who are voting for them.
I agree 100%, Josh. Do you have any questions from the chat room? If you guys have any questions for us, please announce by name or just put your question out. We'll try to answer it for you.
Excuse me. Had to get the beer burp out.
Thank you, John. Go ahead, Fabian. What's your question? No, I don't drink Dr. Pepper.
He's getting it from that bad lip read.
But hey, hoo-ha cherry soda.
Who do you think in the Liberty Movement will going to run for president in 2016? I think that's an interesting question, but I think it's one of those questions where, again, we're going to be trying to play their game. A lot of people said to me, well, Josh, should we position Rand Paul and have him, be ready to run? Well, a few things have to fall into line for that to happen. Mitt Romney's going to have to lose. Paul Ryan's going to have to get into a new profession. Chris Christie and Marco Rubio are going to have to spontaneously want to move to Peru. And we have to realize that while Rand might have some beneficial aspects to him, the system that just made it harder to do what we did this year, it's going to be harder yet to get Rand in that position. Remember, this is a guy who the GOP spent money to try to defeat in a GOP race. It's not some guy that they're going to openly embrace. So we have to really get back to this priority of how do we make sure that we can protect ourselves on a county and a state level from whatever they happen to do in Washington, D.C. Because as soon as the Liberty Movement gets behind somebody like Rand anyway, that pushback is going to be there. I would love to see it happen, but to already be thinking, okay, how do we take the White House in 4 years, reveals the strategy of why we've never taken the White House. How do we get governors? When there's one independent governor and there's 50 states, we have a problem. When there's so few people who are running for my local county seat, we have a problem. So let's worry about that over the course of the next 4 years. So regardless of what happens in D.C., we have a little buffer against the people who cocoon themselves.
Did you guys see that Doug Weed article? I thought that was kind of interesting, the idea of a Ron Paul libertarian run if Mitt Romney were to win the election. That'd be insane.
Well, it would be insane. And I think one thing we're going to have to really keep an eye on is letting this Liberty Movement kind of backtrack if Mitt Romney is going to win. Because the way it looks right now is it looks like the establishment wants Mitt to win. So we're going to have to be ready for that, because the next fear we have are those people who are almost in the Liberty Movement. They're going to say, hey, at least this is a victory for us. And they're going to kind of rest on their laurels, because so many people have already said, well, Mitt Romney is going to be that guy. He's going to shrink government. He's going to restore the Constitution. So that mindset of resting under a constitutional banner is already starting to take place amongst people who were on our side 72 hours ago. So we really, really, really have to be ready to make that push, regardless of the numbers. We have to remember, too, that waking people up and getting to 100% alertness to the liberty movement isn't really the goal. That's never going to happen. We didn't win our independence with 100% of the population, and we're not going to maintain our independence with 100% of the population. We just have to get a large enough percentage of the population that becomes active, so that we have a way to reinstitute and protect the freedoms that we are currently losing.
And that is one of the big reasons I organize this show, and why I'm going to organize some in the future, is to encourage people to be active. You see the people up here, they've already managed to do it, but everybody down there in the chat, except for Julie, you should send me a link to your projects or whatever, and let's see if we can work together. And if you don't have a project yet, you should be making one. Do something either actually out in real life, or on the internet, or videos, or even radio, or writing a book. But do something.
Well, and the other thing too,
I'd
I'm
like
just gonna.
to.
Oh,
Okay.
go ahead. No, I'll wait.
Yeah, I just wanted to elaborate on your point on voting for Romney. There was a very lucid discussion that I was involved in, and one of the things that was brought up is, okay, if we had to choose Romney or Obama, and the thing you have to watch out with Romney is most of our troops, now I wouldn't say all of them, but most of our American military, who we're going to need as the last defense. We're going to need oath keepers in the American military. We're going to need people who are awake. Most of them lean Republican or conservative. So if Mitt Romney were to get the election, and to think about this strategy-wise instead of just personal-wise, if Mitt Romney were to get the election, our troops would go to sleep, or a good amount of them. And, oh, it's the commander-in-chief telling us to shoot citizens, it's fine. Obama's telling us to shoot citizens, a little different story. So there's a danger in getting Mitt Romney elected, not just that conservatives will go to sleep, but that our military and the guys with the guns will go to sleep.
Well, not only that, I think it's going to be more of a slow takeover. See, when we get calls on the show, we get calls all the time that say, well, Josh, I got my 30-30 and a box of shells, and I'm going to fight back tyranny. And that's not really what's happening here. What's happening here is we're allowing it to be taken away. A shot's never going to have to be fired. And when we have somebody like Romney in office, we get people who we thought were conservatives who are going to look the other way. And even if you don't always agree with organizations like Phyllis Schlafly's organization, Eagle Forum, still, here's another example of somebody who warned us against Romney 4 years ago and now is embracing him. So we have this tendency to see this happen over and over and over again, and there's a lot to be said for this lulling to sleep. And I think one of the things we also have to work on, and this is not to promote what I do, but just to kind of give you a behind-the-scenes look into what I do, we have to promote this sort of message in the mainstream. We have to get this to a point where people don't have to look for it. It's going to find them anyway. When people can hit the seek button on their Sirius or on their car radio, and it hits one of us, then you're going to get people who wouldn't normally go to the internet and spend 3 hours trying to find it. It's going to naturally just become part of their life and start that conversation. So we have to get to this point where we start literally marketing liberty, just as if we were marketing freedom or a product, rather, or a service.
You know, I got to say something of something I saw in the chat. I don't know who it was that actually said it, but actually made the claim that, you know, Gary Johnson would bomb Iran. You know, folks, here is the problem. This is what divides the movement, especially when we start using comments as fact that are untrue. So I challenge that person that made that comment to show me where Gary Johnson stated he will bomb Iran. I am not on the Gary Johnson bandwagon. I have not decided who I'm going to vote for. But when we start spreading lies, it's unacceptable. And I personally will not tolerate it, because this is exactly why we're not winning. Because we start this keyboard cowboy stuff, okay, and instead of uniting behind each other and focusing on the issues that we can actually agree on and make some change, we do nothing but move 2 steps backwards, and it's unacceptable to me.
I agree. It's actually doing more harm than benefit.
We need to be working together.
Well, and we need to realize, too...
You know, I still haven't decided...
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Josh.
I was just going to say, we have to realize, too, that you're not going to agree with everybody on everything. I have stood up on stage for Ron Paul, but I don't agree with him on everything either. So we have to get past this idea of some utopia where some benevolent God figure is going to come down and represent everything we agree on. What we have to realize is the government isn't there to do it for us. The government's there to protect us so we can live out the freedoms. They're not supposed to give them to us. They're not supposed to issue them to us. So we need a gatekeeper. We need a president who we don't necessarily agree with, but we know won't infringe upon our ability to advance what we want to advance through the execution of our private lives.
Hey guys, I'm gonna have to jump off here because it's getting kind of late, and as a college student, I have this thing called homework that sometimes gets in the way of saving the nation. So I'm gonna have to jump off here. It's been great being with you guys. If anybody wants to check it out, it's pandaunite.org is our website, and peopleagainstndaa.com is what it redirects to. Thank you guys all. Hope to talk with you soon. And let's keep the liberty movement going. Keep fighting for liberty.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. It's appreciated.
Yeah, you did a great job, man.
There we go.
You know, I think one of the problems we have is even people in this movement, we've got, even with the Gary Johnson versus Ron Paul, we've got this us versus them mentality. Right. And to me, it's so simple. You know, I don't understand it. Let people do what they want to do. But let's not tear the movement apart in the process. Let's follow Ron Paul's model. And you know, I say this all the time. We cannot force our goodwill on anyone. We can only set good examples and hope people wish to emulate us. Why is that so hard to follow? I can't conceive anything that is more simple than what Ron Paul has stated in that comment.
Well, I think what happens is that just like there's people who swallow the Kool-Aid on the Republican side and people who swallowed the Kool-Aid on the Democrat side, there's people on this side too who think, you know, there's only one way or there's only, you know, one solution. And in reality, they don't want to really have freedom or have to live up to the responsibility of freedom. They just want to have somebody do it for them.
Well, that's one thing. If you actually listen to one of my interviews that happened about 4.5 years ago, Josh, it was in regards to an Alex Jones show where he called me out personally on something. I expressed the same thing. But, you know, what really gets me is when people start making comments as their fact to try to persuade someone when they really don't have the first clue what they're talking about. And that hurts us a lot more than it helps. I would rather people be true, okay, and speak the truth and educate people rather than lying to people. That's the problem. You know, we can't use the same type of tactics that the mainstream media uses with propaganda to support our position, because we're going to get found out exactly the way that we find out the mainstream media lies. And what does that do? It hurts us as a movement.
Yep.
Actually, I like John Hayes down there said, how about not endorse anyone but liberty? I'm not sure exactly the subject he's referring to, but that's exactly what I've been doing. People asking, like, who are you going to vote for? And ever since after the RNC, I haven't endorsed any candidate. I'm just keeping it to myself, and I'm endorsing the ideas of the liberty movement in general.
Well, John, your vote is just that, your vote. You
Exactly.
Do with it what you want.
Exactly. I believe in the libertarian mentality where everybody's an individual. They have the right to believe the way they want to believe. I will influence them through my writings and the shows, but I'm not going to tell them how they should vote or judge them for how they vote.
I'm going to vote for Ron Paul. The reason I'm going to vote for Ron Paul is because I said I was going to vote for Ron Paul. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise to the RNC that if they wanted my vote, they would nominate Ron Paul. I did it. I'm doing what I'm doing out of integrity. What good would it do if we all said we were going to vote for Ron Paul and then change our vote? We're no better than the lying scum, cheating scum who fucked us this week. If we have integrity, we'll stick with what we are. And I will vote for Ron Paul. I took the pledge, just like Dennis. I will stand by integrity and principle. Thank you, Freedom.
You know, I still haven't decided who I'm going to vote for. But one thing that I would actually like to see is I would like to see Gary Johnson be involved in the debates. At least that would spread some more ideas that Ron Paul supports. Again, you know, I don't agree with everything that Gary Johnson says. I have to be honest with everyone in here. I don't agree with 100% of what Ron Paul says, but I agree with them enough to know that at least I'm getting something better than what's being shoved down my throat, which is Romney or Obama. Freedom is about people being able to do what they want without harming others. And we shouldn't chastise people for doing what they claim they want to do with their vote or their opinion. But what we shouldn't do is try to divide the movement with insults and belittling people and trying to force our views on others. That will never, ever work.
Free Today wants to ask if we really think we follow a constitution. If we really thought we followed a constitution, we wouldn't be here. The whole reason we're here is because the Constitution is not being followed.
Yeah, I don't understand that logic in the least bit. If whoever made that comment could elaborate, I'd be happy to entertain it. But we're here talking about that. But you know, it seems like a lot of people that I've seen, especially on forums, they don't even understand how to articulate and defend the Constitution. They like to use the Constitution when it suits their purpose, but when it doesn't, they twist and turn it. And if we're going to defend the Constitution, we better understand how to defend the Constitution.
Well, that's kind of true with everybody. I mean, there's no politician who's going to get up there and say, hey, guess what? I hate the Constitution. And that's why it's so important that we read it, that we understand it, that we understand the mindset of the founders when they wrote it. Because if we're allowing ourselves to be so easily manipulated by anybody who says, hey, I love the Constitution, well, that's anybody who's going to run for office. Nobody's going to say, oh, yeah, I hate the thing. So we have to get to this point where we have a level of understanding in order to participate in a conversation which will yield results.
Yeah, if I could just bust in here for a second. You know, we can preach about being united on all fronts as much as we want, but the fact is, when you have the numbers that we have in this movement, there will always be a division. There will always be a split. That is why I can't express enough that, you know, the beautiful part of being an individual and expressing your freedom is yours. You don't need a leader. You don't need a following. You do what you do best. And if that helps this movement, then by all means, keep it going. But you really can't preach about we all need to be united if, in my opinion, that's a utopia that's never going to happen. So like Josh was saying, we all have to have enough respect for one another. And it's all in our communication lines. You know, we have to respect people that want to vote for Gary Johnson. We have to respect people that are going to write in Ron Paul, or people that choose not to vote at all. that's the part that people are lacking, that you're an individual. You have the power to resist government. You have the power to resist the TSA. You have the power to resist involving yourself in nonsense conversations, and that includes the belittlement of others and so on and so forth, which Steve has brought up several times this evening. I'm pretty much beyond that, especially in a platform like this where you're given an opportunity to speak to between 70 and 100 people at a time. The question comes about, well, don't you want to change everybody's minds on a mass scale? Well, no, I don't. I want to be able to change one person's mind, plant one seed inside somebody's head that will get them to think and question things on their own. And if we do that on an individual level, and instead of trying to do it on a mass scale, I think the results will be a lot more productive.
Well, I think two things to add to that. I think one thing is we can be even united in the division. Our founding fathers were very divided. I mean, they almost went to blows when they were trying to figure out what they were going to have the Constitution say. But they were united in the fact that freedom was the most essential aspect. And I think part of the problem we're having right now is there are so many people who aren't used to being free that they think once they woken up to the problem that equals freedom, and it's not. We have to realize that you can be your own person, you can be your own adult, and make decisions for yourself. And to just amplify what you said, I take that same approach. I don't want to tell you what to think. I just want to provoke you to start thinking. And if you agree with me, fine, but I don't even always agree with me 100% of the time. So we have to stop thinking that there's going to be one person with all the answers. This is a process that's going to have to be continually lived out. Even if we achieved our goal and we attained this undefinable freedom, the problem is it's not definable. That's why it has to be constantly renewed. And it's never going to be secure. That's why it has to be constantly fought for. So this whole idea that if we do one thing and do it well and we win and it's over, well, that's just childish. That's not even an option at this point. So we have to realize that this is something that we live out, not something that we win at a ballot box.
Completely agree, Josh. Witnessing what has happened, to our delegates who are supposed to have the ultimate voice and represent each state, witnessing what happened with the RNC, and then, a few days later seeing the same exact thing happen in the DNC, that was a really huge wake-up call for me. I had never voted in my entire life. I woke up to this movement and this whole liberty idea not even a year ago. It happened quickly. My life literally changed overnight. I focused so much on the political aspect of what I understood to be freedom that I closed my mind off to other people who were offering me a different path, trying to show me a different way to be free other than the ballot box, which you were just talking about. So now that I see the entire corruption, I'm completely done with the political aspect of it. I did pledge my vote for Ron Paul. I will follow through with that. Whether my vote counts or not to the establishment, it will count to me. And quite frankly, that's all that should matter to people. Your vote is yours. It's supposed to be your voice in the political arena, but the establishment has taken it over, and obviously it doesn't matter who you vote for. But as long as it matters to you, then I implore you to go ahead and write in somebody or vote Gary Johnson or whatever. But the whole idea of government in itself, in my opinion, is complete force. There is no aspect of government that is honestly there to help anyone. That is up to you. That's why you need to be active in your community. Like Josh was saying earlier, do you know your neighbors? Talk to people that you live near. It was quite difficult for me during the campaign for me to speak with my neighbors because I live in south side of Chicago. It's very pro-Obama, but I did what I could. There were days 6 days out of the week I was out talking to people, just trying to open their eyes to another view of what freedom should be, because 99% of these folks don't really understand what freedom is because they haven't ever had it. They've been, lied to by their government and persuaded and given promises, that are false and ultimately will not come true. But just the message of the government telling you, somebody at that political status, that pedestal that's way up above you, telling you, we're going to take care of you and everything's going to be okay. People are so easily brainwashed because they're yearning for something. I wish it was ultimate freedom, but unfortunately, they get blindsided by, irrelevant issues like, hey, we're going to pay for this, we're going to get you a house, or, so on and so forth. But, the bottom line for me is that after witnessing the corruption on such a grand scale, I realized that all political parties, no matter what you label them, are always going to have, to a certain extent, massive corruption. And I refuse to take part in that. People can say the establishment, that's what they want. They don't want you to vote, Well, in my opinion, it's the complete opposite. They do want you to vote. They do want you to be disillusioned still to this circus of choice. For instance, with the DNC and what I witnessed with their delegates being ignored for their nay vote on, should Jerusalem be recognized as the state of Israel. Instead of the issue being we the people's voices that were elected by our states being ignored and rules being broken, it was easily switched into a religious thing. That is the smokescreen there. So instead of people complaining and being irate that, hey, we were duly elected here, we're here to represent our state, and we're here to, have our voice, and then be ignored, it's turned into, this other issue that shouldn't even be relevant in politics. Religion shouldn't be involved, with government and vice versa. They have no business. That's a personal decision. It's a moral decision, whatever you want to call it. But, that's the trick that, the mainstream media will play on you, and that's why I think it's so important to listen to, Ron Paul's message of become the media. That's what Josh is fighting to do, and he's doing a damn good job. And now John's busting into it. We have Joe and Steve, and all these great people that have been in and out of here tonight. Even if it's taking 2 minutes out of your day, like Tatiana would say, make a YouTube video. You read a news story, you have a comment on it, and you don't have anybody to tell. Because you could be like me and be around accountants all the time and not really have anybody to talk to. So you pick up your camera, you make a video about it. Not only is it a type of therapy for you, but you can put it on the web and it'll go, even if it reaches one person, So I think people really need to get beyond this whole voting thing and really push it to the next level.
Yeah, once again, it comes...
A really long time.
It goes back to the idea of just educating people, find out what you're good at and just do it. I started out just by tweeting. Every day I would just post Ron Paul tweets and libertarian type tweets. And right now I'm at about 11,500 followers. And I started from there, and then found out about RonPaulTribune, Ron Paul Radio, and started helping out with them. And now I'm here organizing and producing shows and writing articles and all over Twitter and Facebook and everywhere you can imagine.
Everybody seems to want to talk about apparently abortion and
oh no.
As far as the president goes, that's irrelevant. The federal government has no business being in any part of that. It's a state's right, state's authority issue. So whatever president is one way or the other, like Ron Paul, he's against it, but he said the states have the say in that. The federal government has no say. So if you're going to base your presidential vote on that, I think you're misplaced. What we want to do is let the presidents know, or the presidential candidates know, that they don't have any say in that. The federal government has no say in abortion or birth control in any way.
I agree with you, Joe. I want to make 2 points. Number one, to Axiom that's in the chat room, you caught me. I am the criminal rapist COINTELPRO shill that you think I am. So I appreciate your support. Number two, you know, there's a lot of talk about the blame game. You know, Jesse Benton, Rand Paul, whatnot. This type of stuff needs to stop. There's one thing that needs to be said. If you think that Jesse Benton did everything he did without Ron Paul knowing about it, then we have a problem here. Because if we trusted Ron Paul to be president and he can't control the staff or pick his staff, then he didn't deserve to be president. Okay? I'm not saying that I agree with what Benton did, but if you think that Jesse Benton did everything against what Ron Paul stated, we're being naive here. We've got to start thinking outside the box and stop playing the blame game. If we want real change in this country, we have to do it. We cannot let Ron Paul be our savior. He is one man. The majority of things that Ron Paul wanted to do, if he became president, he could not do by himself. There are two things Ron Paul could do if he became president. Number one, he could immediately bring our troops home because he's the absolute authority over our military. And he had the power of the veto. Everything else that he wanted to do, he could not do without Congress. So if we want real change, we have to do it as the American people and grow the movement. And the new saying is, which is the shirts that we designed for Paul Fest, which there are only 200 of them, stated that I am Ron Paul. Because I am Ron Paul. Because I will continue Ron Paul's message and continue to promote the integrity and the model that he showed me and shared with me. And I would hope that all of you are Ron Paul, because this is way bigger than Ron Paul. It's bigger than all of us. And until we start to figure out what we have to do together as a people, we're not going to solve any problems. And on that, Steve is out.
Have a good night, Steve.
Have a good one, Steve.
Bye, Steve. Always love your exits.
Always fun.
It's very comparable to T-Mod Out.
Oh, no, I'm not leaving the room. I just wanted to let everybody know I was doing my comment.
Oh.
Oh,
darn. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, gee, tell me how you really feel, John.
Oh. Anyway, I'm going to allow Fabian up here.
Oh boy. Who drinks Dr. Pepper?
Hey, I didn't say a word. You said Dr. Pepper.
All right, Fabian's a regular at Ron.Paul.Tribune in the chat.
Hey, Josh, you have an awesome show, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. It's growing, too. I'm going to let you in on some news if any of you in the room are listeners to the show. We're going to be adding a huge, huge station next, or 2 weeks from Monday. So, if anybody lives in Texas, get ready.
Well, I don't live in Texas, but hopefully they have some kind of live stream or archive where you can download it.
Oh yeah, you know, I should kind of talk about that. Yeah, you can listen to the show. It's 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday. We're syndicated from GCN Radio Network. It's the same network that syndicates Alex Jones. We're actually the lead-in to Alex Jones. We have listeners in all 50 states, 150 countries. All you have to do is go to GCNlive.com. They live stream it from there. There's also apps and a bunch of other stuff. Matter of fact, I would bet John knows more ways to get the show than I do. Hey, check that out. I have a phone app. How cool is that?
No, this is the iTunes, actually.
Oh, well, I have an iTunes.
Yeah. So I downloaded the podcast, and I listened to it the day after. And I already told you, I listened to all my podcasts at twice normal speed to get through 12 hours of them a day in 6 hours. So I listened to you talking twice as fast as normal.
Wow. That's pretty good, because sometimes I can really go on a rip.
You do. You and Tom Woods are difficult to listen to at twice speed.
Oh, really? There's a link at Liberty Movement? See, I don't even know all the ways to listen to the show.
You know, there are some people that have been asking, can we get Gary Johnson to speak with us? Can we get him into a dialogue? I want everyone to know that I actually reached out to Gary Johnson's campaign today to try to get him to do a 1-hour interview on Ron Paul Radio. So we can finally put some of this stuff to bed instead of the rumors and the propaganda that's out there. As soon as that happens, I'll let you know. But on another note, something else that we can do for each other to grow this movement is to start supporting other sites that are doing good things, like, you know, Josh Tolley at JoshTolley.com and RonPaulTribune.com and RonPaulRadio.com and LibertyChat.com. We've got to start supporting these local grassroots type sites to grow our numbers. And if we're not going to support them, we're not going to grow. Because, you know, when people come into a room and they see, you know, 35 people, they're like, oh, there's not much going on here. Well, the reason there's only 35 people is because everybody else isn't involved. You know, we've kept 75 people in this room for the last 3 hours, and it's been well above that. That's right, Iron Paul, DailyPaul.com, RonPaulForums.com. You know, we've got to find the Liberty sites and support them. Even if you're not listening, come in and show your numbers, because that's what the establishment is looking at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's one note I wanted to make. Gary Johnson actually does online video Q&As, and usually he announces them via Twitter and on his Facebook. And you can actually go on there, get on video, and ask him a question. And he also does a lot of traveling. You should look to see if you want to talk to him, look to see when he'll be in your local area, and you can talk to him one-on-one. I got a half-hour discussion with him when he was in Jacksonville. And also, there's one other website that Steve probably doesn't know about yet. What's it, CompleteShanarchy.com? That will be coming out soon, hopefully by the end of the week.
Yep. Shane's like going blind because he's trying to do 20 things at once.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I'm sorry, Shannon. I had no knowledge of your website, or I would have happily announced it.
Oh, no, it's okay, Steve. This is just new. It happened today, so no, I'm really not offended.
She is starting her own show. So I'm really glad to see other people are starting to branch off and starting their own thing.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I don't know, the only other person that I'm aware of that kind of touches on the anarchy issues is, well, we have Lou Rockwell, of course. I'm a huge fan of his. You know, then you have people like, you know, Adam Kokesh, of course. And I'm sure there's plenty of others that I need to get in touch with, but, you know, that's kind of what I want to focus on. So hopefully it'll be a good show.
Good luck with that.
Thanks.
Okay.
You know, John, this would probably be a good time to maybe play a song or a video to give everybody a little break for a few minutes.
Okay, what am I playing? Am I playing the what's it called? American.
Oh, well, that's up to you. You're the moderator.
Well, I mean, I
think Donnie requested and a couple other people requested American Freedom, but you can play whatever you want. You're the host of the show, man.
I say you play some Jimmy Vaughn.
How about Jay and Silent Bob?
I hate to interrupt. Can I just, can somebody throw down Steve Parent's SoundCloud link in the chat so I can bookmark it?
Maybe if you just go to SoundCloud and type in Steve Parent, you'll find all my songs there.
Is it over now? Is the song still going?
No.
Okay. I don't know. It wasn't working on mine, but I'm going to give Josh Tolley the floor since he's going to get out here fairly soon, to let him answer questions and give final thoughts before he gets out of here.
Yeah, I'd love to have any questions if you have them. Thoughts on Gary Johnson? I kind of answered that one earlier. I think it's a great idea to get him to 15%, to get him into the debates. I think it's an opportunity for us to get to this place where we can really continue the conversation. I think if he doesn't get in the debates, and I've told him this, that he should set up a platform right outside the debate hall, turn on the cameras, answer the questions as they're asked anyway, stream it onto YouTube, so that way people can say, hey, at least he was going to answer it this way. My thoughts on metals, I saw that a couple times go by. You're going to see gold and silver go up. Part of the reason is Vladimir Putin is gobbling up gold like Pac-Man gobbles up power pellets right now. So he's just like chewing gold up. China's also making a huge play for gold, so is India. And if gold's going to go up, especially in that amount, you're going to see an influx in silver as well. So that's why you're seeing the metal prices fluctuate and go up. What else you got? Come on, give me something. By the way, thank you so much for allowing me to do this. I really don't get to do this sort of stuff that often, and I absolutely love it. Tell me your thoughts on competing currencies. I love competing currencies, and I love competing states. I think we need to get back to a place where we have more competition because it only benefits the people who are involved Okay, that's what I'm going to go off on. This is what I'm going to end on. We need to understand that we need to activate the economy. We are the economy. Economic activity is just that. It's us engaging in activity. So if we're going to complain about economic activity, then it's up to us to engage in it. One way we do that is start businesses. We need a lot more businesses to be started. There's a war on right now for entrepreneurship. We get the ones that are for, like, chemtrails, and we get the threats like the Federal Reserve, but there's a real war on for entrepreneurship. When I go and do a speaking engagement, exactly, quit your job or die, thank you. When I go and do a speaking engagement, I take with me a textbook from 1929, and that textbook literally teaches kids how to start a business. Starting a business used to be the default career choice, and the backup plan was a job. Now, jobs are the default career choice, with a business as the alternative that you really don't want to talk about because everybody might be embarrassed. And I found it so funny when Steve Jobs died, everybody was like, oh my goodness, that's a shame, he was a hero. Well, let me ask all the parents in the room, how excited would you be if your kids came home and said, hey, I want to drop out of college and then I want to start a business? Most of you would have a flippin' bird, but in reality, that's exactly what we need. And the truth of the matter is, as long as you're an employee, statistics tell us that employees are less likely to be politically active. If you want to really wake people up to liberty, create a business owner. A business owner will realize he's got skin in the game, or her, she has skin in the game, and they'll be more active to show up at that city council meeting that has to do with Agenda 21, sustainable development, and where we're putting the new pipeline for the water, because you understand how it affects you. And your founding fathers knew that. They didn't fight for religious freedom. They didn't even fight for economic recovery. And this is part of the thing that really makes me mad when all these fake conservatives out there start saying, well, at least Romney will give us economic recovery. Your founding fathers didn't fight and die for economic recovery. If you adjust for inflation, Benjamin Franklin was actually America's first billionaire. They had economic recovery. They didn't fight for religious freedom. That's why when we did issue our freedom, the Danbury Baptists wrote a letter to Thomas Jefferson saying, hey, now that there's actually a country over on this side of the pond, are you going to take that freedom away? What they fought for was the ability to own their life. And you own your life through entrepreneurship. Free enterprise is the fuel for freedom. If we lose that, it doesn't matter how many banners we put up. It doesn't matter how many bumper stickers we put on our car, because we have no vehicle to carry out that freedom with. And it always allows them to control the economy in the first place. When you're an employee, what do you worry about? You worry about a paycheck. When you're a business owner, what do you worry about? You worry about creating economy. The economy is not some finite thing where there's only so much and we have to divide it up. It only appears that way when you have to go to somebody else for your paycheck. When you create a paycheck, the economy is an ever-expandable thing. So we really have to get back to this path of entrepreneurship. Josh, we need to deregulate in order to facilitate the path to entrepreneurship. Yes and no. Even if, and I'm not going to say this, so forget that I ever said this. Even if it's, well, I'm not going to say it. But yeah, we do need deregulation to enhance entrepreneurship. But just between you and I, we both know entrepreneurship can be carried out in any form of freedom or any form of government. Even if you look at communist nations, there's still benefits to people who are free. Even if you are somebody of faith and you want to take the story of the slaves in Egypt, you had the story of Joshua, who was without, well, he also had a really good name, but he also offered his services as an entrepreneur, which gave him a level of entrepreneurship and freedom. So you have to worry, or you have to look at how we implement entrepreneurship, and we have to teach it in the first place. So let's get back to that. What do you do? What do I do? Was that a what do I do, or what do you do as in like a general, what do we do? Need more clarification. Josh, what is the name of your book? It's called Quit Your Job or Die, Discover the Importance of Self-Employment. You can buy it at any bookstore. You can also go to Tolley.com, buy it there, get the instant download. You can become a member of Tolley.com, and I'll send you a free autographed copy. And the next book is, well, actually, I'm working on 3 books. Who Shot My Duck? The definitive work on finally getting your ducks in a row. Because I found when I was speaking to a bunch of CEOs, they said, well, Josh, I'll get married when I get my ducks in a row. Or I'll build that new house when I get my ducks in a row. I started asking people, well, what are your ducks? And if you don't know what they are, how do you know they're not already in a row? And then I was sitting in a park one day, and I saw these ducks, and you know what? They never spontaneously just got in a row. Ducks only get in a row once you're actually moving towards a goal. So you have to identify what those damn ducks are, and then identify where you want to go, and they'll kind of line up naturally. The other book I'm writing is Watering Your Grassroots, going from politically active to politically effective. Now that's kind of, up your alley. But that book basically talks about how do you communicate in a way where you actually change the mind of somebody else. I have a background as a behavioral strategist and a hypnotist, so I actually know how you change your mind. So I wanted to take that stuff that I normally teach companies and teach it to people who want to change political streams so they can know how to communicate in a way to do that. And then the third one, well, I'm not going to reveal the third one. We'll just wait on that. Josh, we need to do, okay, I got that one already. Well, that was fun. Okay, go ahead.
I was supposed to have the copy of your book by now. I'm a member.
No, you're not.
Okay. I thought I signed up.
Yes. You actually signed up. But what we did was we took everybody who signed up for that promotion. So we went to the printer with one big order as opposed to a bunch of different orders. So at the end of last week, because it just made better sense, instead of putting a bunch of mini orders in, just wait till the end.
Okay, so I was hoping I could hold it up and be like, oh, here's his book. But no, I don't have the signed copy of your book. I have a signed Peter Schiff book.
Matter of fact, Peter Schiff has a good book too.
Nothing compared to Josh Tolley.
Well, it's different. See, people bring that up too. Like, Josh, what are your thoughts on Peter Schiff? Peter Schiff's an economist. Peter Schiff is great at being a mechanic of a car. I teach you how to drive the car. And there's a complete difference here. Sometimes we think, well, we need everybody to be a mechanic, and that's not true. We need to teach some people how to drive too. And there's so many economists who know how this works on paper, but they are dumb as doornails, and I'm not referring to Peter. I'm just saying they're dumb as doornails when it comes to actually running a business. So there's the difference in that. Josh, is your book in audio yet? No, because I just haven't had time to do it, and I didn't want, Samuel L. Jackson to do the reading of it or something, I guess. I think that's all. Are there any questions that I missed when I was on my little rant there? See, what I'm used to is 2 hours of just me and a guy who speaks in my ear that says, "Hey, shut up, I'm about to play the music." So.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, that's what happens. It's pretty fun, actually. Josh, your views on a fiscal cliff? Well, I've always been a fan of base jumping. So if we're going to go off the cliff, let's go. And, in reality, well, boxers. What kind of question is that? To be honest with you, and I hope we don't record this, but right now I'm kind of going commando, but whatever. Back to the views of a fiscal cliff. In a way, we kind of need it. I mean, we've kind of become crack whores as Americans. We're so addicted to financial prosperity, and we're so addicted to somebody else taking care of us. In a way, we need to hit that rock bottom so we learn how to build us back up. I think part of the problem is, and part of the reason we're ranked 10th in economic competitiveness, is we don't understand what it took to get us here. Kind of like these people who make excuses, well, we have to watch out for the middle class. Let me tell you something about your grandparents who formed the middle class. The middle class wasn't a goal, it was a stepping stone. Once you turn the middle class into a goal, you're always going to shoot below your goal. So what do you see? You see less people achieving it. Well, that just makes sense. So we need to get back to this position where we learn how to continually advance as an economy as opposed to finding resting places in it. So, yeah. What was the name of the book written in 1929? Usually I have it with me. I don't have it with me. It was really simple. It's 7th grade mathematics or arithmetic or something. And it's only about that thick. But it was absolutely brilliant. I found it at an auction. And it was in one of those boxes, that's, just a bunch of stuff, and they sell it for $1. And I started reading it, and it's like how to pay your employees and how to set up distribution. And I started thinking, you know what, I could teach an entire seminar off of the 7th grade economic textbook. So, all right, if that's it, I'm out. Thank you so much for having me. Oh, Josh, wait, there was another one. Do you do any sort of prepping? Yes, but it's confidential, and I can't tell you, otherwise it's not really valid prepping.
Thank you very much for being on the show. It's an honor to have you.
Oh, dude, it was fun. I love this. So keep up the good work, John. You've made great progress in the in your move from behind the scenes to host. And Shanarchy, I'm really looking forward to your show. Let me know when it's out, and we'll see if we can post a link or something. So have a good night, guys.
Awesome.
Have a great night. Okay. So hold on about
that. Yeah, got him to admit he doesn't wear underwear, and he's excited for my show. Yeah. I would.
What do you think? It's time to wrap it up for the night?
It's up to you. You did a great job, John. I'm really, really proud of you. I was happy that you had me on here.
Hold on. Wait. Yeah, I'm back. I just want to add real quick. Being excited about your show and not wearing underwear, those two things don't relate, so don't make any sort of weird connection there.
Dang it!
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.
I think him saying that they aren't related definitely means that there is a relation.
Absolutely, and with that, I'm getting off of here. Yeah. Bye.
Have a good night. Well, Steve, do you have any last words here?
Good night, gentlemen.
Yeah, my final words would be that, let's try to work together. And we're going to move this conversation over to RonPaulTribune.com. That's RonPaulTribune.com.
Chat.RonPaulTribune.com.
Well, maybe you should post a link there, John.
Yeah, I'm about to.
So we're gonna continue the conversation, have a good time, play some videos, listen to some music, have a good conversation. So come and join us.
Maybe a couple beers. Also, every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, usually 9 to 10 p.m., sometimes 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, we have different shows. On Monday, the Liberty Livestream Team Show. Tuesday, the inflation preparation show with Tom Garcia, and on Wednesday, the Matt Larson 10 show. So make sure you bookmark this page and come back Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night. And I'm thinking 2 weeks from now, I'm going to have another one of these shows. I'm going to gather some different people and do this again, based mainly off the emails I received from people like you that have projects going on. I would like to have you up here and be able to present your projects to a large audience and see how we can work together to continue the liberty movement. So I'll see you guys in 2 weeks, and have a great night.